Pedro, good morning. Hey, John,
Hey,
good
good
morning.
morning, John.
All right, got you.
Robert Maxwell. What's going on, Chief?
Hello.
Hey,
Good morning,
Maxwell, yes, sir.
Pedro.
Morning, morning.
hey, good morning, Miss Thompson. How are you?
Well, I'm good, I reckon. How are you?
I'm doing well. Steve guys over here. I just want to say to all the Steve guys, I give up candy. You know.
I think you're fibbing.
I would never do that.
So, Mr. Haynes, no more chocolate in the office, sir.
Say again?
No more candy in the office.
Nah, not yet.
Pedro, you are very low. I can barely hear you.
Okay, I'm not sure what I need to do. I'm still. Let me try to juggle a few things around.
Okay.
I
I hear
probably
you good, Pedro. I hear you.
you hear
Morning,
me?
Robert.
Yeah, I hear you just fine, Pedro. So
Yeah,
I
you,
don't
Good
know if it's on
morning.
your end.
yeah, you come in strong. All right, thank you.
Okay,
You need to touch your speaker. Tell her to touch the speaker
I got
and
it.
put it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
here it goes. Listen, I gotta check on our guys and see who we're missing so I can invite them in. Okay, so just give me a little bit of time.
Good morning, Yvonne. I see a name I recognize. Mr. Raymond.
Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's well.
Hey, good morning. Let me turn my camera off so I don't scare anyone else. So I'll be back.
Good morning, everybody.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Why did I do that? Where's my thing?
Good morning. This is Group 4, correct?
Yes, Bob, I think you're in the correct one.
Thank you, Felicia.
You're welcome. Good morning.
And good morning to you on this beautiful day.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Does anyone know
Good.
what all
Good
groups
morning.
in this session? Is this only one org, or are we in the total org?
It's several orgs.
Thank you.
Heidi, it's good to hear your voice, hon. We miss you.
How are you, Heidi?
Thank you. I'm doing better. Thank you.
Morning, Papa Clay.
Good morning, whoever that was.
It's Raymond.
Confusing.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for logging to the Teams meeting on time. Today's meeting will address 4 key areas where we usually get a lot of questions. For the shop, please note that masks were not required in the video in order to ensure good audio quality. Operations, this will mainly focus on accidents, but we will address a few other questions. IT, this will address the bus equipment as well as general support. General transportation, this will mostly be org related. At the end of the session, we will share some of the feedback questions from last week's survey. It's unlikely that we have time to answer every question on the meeting, so we'll share this document at the end of the session. Just a few reminders. You will remain on the team meeting for the entire time. We should finish by 11:30 a.m. Be sure to mute your mics during the presentation. If you have a question, use the raised hand feature and let us know. We will record the meeting for anyone who could not make it today. Our first session today is Shop with Scott McKenzie.
Good morning, everyone. Most of you may know me, but if you don't, my name's Scotty McKenzie. I'm the shop foreman here at the bus shop at North Transportation. With the help of Mr. Jamal Ballbed, we have put together a video showing you what happens during a 20-day inspection. This video will take you on the journey from the turning in of the keys to the bus being parked back to its park location.
I'm in here, Pedro. Good morning.
There's several questions about this topic, and hopefully this video and the attached documents will answer many of them. Drivers had the option to ask shop staff questions in preparation of this presentation. If time allows, we can go over some of these questions at the end. If we do run out of time, the questions and answers will be shared after today's meeting. Thank you all and enjoy the meeting.
I don't hear the video.
No sound.
No sound.
Hey, Brian, you have to before you start the video, you have to put share computer audio or something like that. That's something you got to click in order for it to work.
And where is that?
I don't
Pedro?
hear the video.
Pedro, I am in my phone. I don't listen to video either.
Hi, I'm Kenny Smallwood. I'm
There
assistant
it goes.
shop. Hello, I'm Chad Phillips. I'm the shop foreman for South Fulton County.
My name is Mark Trim. I'm an assistant foreman. I assist the foreman.
It's gone again.
Video.
Can't hear the video.
There's no audio with the video.
Hi, I'm Kenny Smallwood. I'm assistant shop foreman. Hello, I'm Chad Phillips. I'm the shop foreman for South Fulton County.
My name is Mark Trim. I'm the assistant foreman. I assist the foreman, which is Scotty. I should be able to do everything he can do. Awesome.
My name is Scotty McKenzie. I'm a foreman here at North Transportation. We're going to show you in this video today how we do a 20-day inspection. Pretty much in-depth video of our inspection process. And give you a little more insight of what it takes to keep the buses safe while they're on the road. I'm going to show you some of the details that we do go through. It's not the entire process, but it will hit some of the areas, and hopefully you'll get more of an idea of what we have to do here.
Fulton County Transportation adheres to the Georgia Department of Education Pupil Transportation Department for all school bus specifications, as well as the requirement to inspect the school bus every 20 days based on a work calendar. Every school bus uses a school bus inspection report to list every item that is checked every single time it comes into the shop for the 20-day inspection, as well as a work order form that gets completed for any work that gets completed on a particular bus. The reference manual that is used consists of 10 sections and a total of 125 pages. All technicians are required to attend the training and be certified through GAPT. If you are ever not sure when your bus needs to be inspected, we have a place on our district website. If you go to fultonschools.org, follow the steps, log into employee portal, and go to our transportation page, which is under the link for operations. Transportation and bus driver corner. Over on the right side, you'll see a link for bus inspection calendar. When you click on that calendar, you'll see an option to enter a bus number. When you type in the bus number, the bus populates with the information that you need for the last inspection, the next inspection, and a complete inspection calendar for the year. In order to see the bus inspection calendar, you have to be on the Fulton County network. So you can use any device, a phone. If you have a tablet, you connect to the Wi-Fi for Fulton County, which is FCS Wi-Fi. Use your username and password to connect, and you'll be able to use that inspection calendar. Or you can use a computer that's located at the facility. You also have the option to print the calendar if you choose to do so by clicking on the option that says print. Once you see that, you'll have a full inspection calendar for your bus. South Transportation is still under construction. Bus drivers turn in their keys to the portable at P62. Once keys are turned in, those keys are walked over to the shop and turned in for inspection. Once the shop has the keys, the mechanic will find the bus, drive it back into the shop, and complete the inspection process. North Transportation has the bus drivers turn in their keys to the front of the shop, where the keys are then turned over to a porter, who then retrieves the bus, brings it over to the wash station, washes the bus, and a mechanic then pulls it into the shop to complete the inspection.
The seat is leaking air, or air's leaking someplace and the seat is coming down, and ADS lights on. Okay. Do you think it's going to be done today? We hope so. Okay, I hope so too. Thanks, Evan. Sure. All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, right now I'm running the step well, making sure the lights are working on the step well, checking the mirrors, side mirrors for tightness, cracks. Same thing with the cross mirrors, checking all the headlights, flashers, high beams, signal lights, making sure everything is functional, making sure the wipers are working, the 8 ways, the crossing gate, the stop arm comes out, looking for a discoloration lens. Unlocking the hood, getting it ready for inspection. Looking for dents, damage onto the bus. Making sure the signal lights, the emergency window stickers or any cracked windows are broken, non-functional. Checking, make sure the check my step well clear, make sure they're all seated in there. Check my first aid body full kit, make sure my fire extinguisher's charged. Make sure my student mirror is tight. Make sure driver's seat belt's attached and secured. Make sure seat's in place, bolted down properly. Gonna check my seat bottoms. Check my emergency exit window. Make sure the buzzer's working, that open as far as they should. Make sure all the windows have stickers. I'm gonna check my seat foams. Don't forget my emergency exit hatches.
Make sure my strobe light's working. Heater pump, my right rear heater. Thermostat heater. Both fans. Noise kill switch. PA mic. Headlights. Turn signal indicators, bright light indicator. Cup holder. Heated mirrors. Horn. Parking brake. Amber lights. Red. Check my child reminder. Check my seat belts, make sure they're mounted, not frayed.
Oh, no, dang.
Then also, if our first aid or body fluid kit is missing a tab, we open, make sure nothing's missing, or if they need to be replaced, we'll put a new tab on after we replace. There's a red triangle box back here as well, make sure they're all in there, has a tab on it as well. Floor aisle, make sure there's no humps, anything dangerous the students could trip over. And that's it.
All right, starting on this side, looking at our coolant, making sure the level's good, making sure we have no leaks coming down anywhere. Usually we mark the air filter, the mileage on the air filter, when the last time it was changed. That way we know. We can also look in the computer as well. Looking at all our wiring, making sure we don't have any chafed wires or anything like that from the hood rubbing against it. Double checking our brake hoses, making sure they haven't been rubbed or anything, or they're loose. Checking our washer fluid container, making sure we have an adequate level. Looking over inside the engine, making sure I don't see any kind of coolant leaks or anything like that. making sure our belt's in good condition. We don't see anything going on with that. Double checking our connections on our alternator, making sure they're tight. Looking at our valve cover gasket, our exhaust manifold, making sure all our bolts are in place. We don't have any exhaust leaks or anything like that. Looking up front, looking at the power steering level. Has a good level of power steering fluid, no leaks or anything like that. Check our transmission fluid. Our transmission fluid looks good. And once again, kind of just shaking everything, making sure we don't have anything loose, nothing that needs to be tied up. Not so much on the Bluebirds, but on the Internationals, double checking our hood stops where it meets the hood.
Checking the oil. Transmission fluid. Level on the coolant, max. So right here is your power steering fluid. Check that guy. It's good. Tire tread depth. So I like to check the tapes, make sure there's no tears, make sure everything is the right color. Just make sure they're secure and tight. Wash the fluid, see that that's full. Got your coolant hoses, make sure those are not moving. No leaks. Turbo hose is good. Team belt, make sure that's tight. No cracks, no tear. Alternator cables are properly secure. Turbo is good. Sounds good. VR, good.
looking for a safe PPR hose. Air leaks coming from via the air hoses.
See? Coming around to this side, we're looking at our steering gearbox and our power steering lines going into our gearbox, making sure we don't have any leaks or anything like that there. Looking at our compressor belt here that drives our air compressor, make sure our belt's not frayed or anything like that. Once again, because I couldn't reach it from the other side, just giving our alternator wires a quick check, making sure they're tight. Checking our brake hose on this side, making sure it's not rubbing or anything. We have a lot going on as far as air lines right here, so I'm always listening for air leaks in this area to make sure I don't hear anything. And check our engine oil. Our engine oil level is good. Checking our steering shaft, making sure it's tight, it's adequately greased. Once again, just kind of getting everything and look over, making sure we have no kind of leaks. All our exhaust manifold bolts are in there. No valve cover leaks or anything like that. Coming down here, checking all our connections, making sure everything's tight, all our hardware's tight. This is our booster pump on this one, making sure we don't have any leaks, anything like that going on. Our fender light. This is kind of the time I look at the windshield, making sure we don't have any cracks or anything like that going on with the windshield. And that's pretty much what I look at underneath the hood.
So this bus is in for a 20 days. I had a check engine light on. This is the start of the disassembly process to get to the part that I need to repair, which is hidden way back behind the turbo. So this adds to some of the time added with doing just the inspection, because I haven't even picked the bus up yet. So with this repair, we're adding anywhere from an hour to 2 hours, depending on how cooperative things go. Front brakes are good. Shocks are good. Bolts are good. Leaf is good, no cracks. A little bit of blowback build up, just perfectly normal. Rods are good. To the back, got the tie rod. It's good. Take the cube pins. They're good. Lug nuts, good. That's it. All right.
So first off, I'd start over here. If there was a tire on it, checking my kingpin, making sure they're tight. Checking wheel bearings, making sure they're tight. Front, checking all my suspension components, making sure everything's tight, nothing loose. Looking at my springs, making sure nothing's broken. Looking at the bottom of the radiator, making sure we have no leaks at the bottom of the radiator. Just kind of looking up. Everything else steering-wise that I didn't see from the top, looking at it from the bottom, making sure everything's tight, intact, and everything's there. I'm going to be doing an oil change on this bus, so once I kind of work my way across the front, I'll set up my drain pan and start draining the oil out. Just checking everything underneath, making sure it's tight. Checking the condition of the belt on the bottom here, making sure I have no big oil leaks on the front of the engine or anything like that. Once again, looking at my springs, making sure I have nothing broken. Looking at my transmission lines, making sure we have no leaks there. Coming across, once again, looking at more suspension components. Right now I'm doing a brake job on the vehicle, but if the brakes are on there, I'll be checking the condition of the front shoes on the brakes, making sure that we have ample life left on the brakes. Like I said, right now we're in the middle of a brake job, so I'm going to grab the oil drain bucket. Help the right wrench. Okay, while our oil is draining, I'll continue on around. Once again, checking the suspension components, making sure everything's tight. We have no loose hardware anywhere. Looking at the spring on this side to make sure everything's intact. Coming on around, we have our tie rod. Checking our tie rod ends, making sure they're tight, no play in them. Checking all our hardware, making sure it's tight. This is a booster pump, which basically circulates the coolant to the rear heater for better heating, prone to leaking, so I'm checking that. Making sure everything's tight. Coming on around, just double checking, making sure we have no coolant leaks. Exhaust is good and tight. Our motor mounts are in place. Coming around, checking this side, making sure our tie rods are intact and tight. Making sure our oil drain bucket's not overflowing. Transmission filter, making sure we have no leaks on the transmission anywhere. Transmission lines are intact, they're not bent. Checking more suspension components, making sure everything's tight. Checking our starter connections, making sure everything's tight there. Coming on back, just double checking all our cables to our batteries, making sure they're not damaged or anything. Checking our air tank, making sure it's not loose, it's mounted in place. Coming on back and just double checking all the hardware mounted in the frame, making sure everything's tight in place. We have no new loose bolts. Checking on this side, we have our body pads, which is basically like a cushion between the frame and the body, making sure they're all in place, or not cracked or damaged. Coming back, we have our body mounts on the inside of the frame, making sure they're all tight, in place. Checking our drive shaft, mid shaft bearings, making sure we have no play in them. Double checking our U-joints, make sure they're not spinning in place, there's no axial movement in the U-joints. Checking our drive shaft loops, making sure they're tight and in place. Checking body mounts. Checking all our hardware, holding the drive shaft in place. Checking the exhaust to make sure it's tight. Coming on along, checking all our body mounts, making sure they're tight. Drive shaft loop is tight. Mid shaft bearing is good. Back here, checking our brake hoses, making sure they're not damaged or anything. Making sure they're not rubbing against anything that could cause them to leak. Checking our hangers for our rear springs, making sure there's no loose hardware, making sure everything's in place. Then I come back down the other side, making sure all our suspension components are in place and tight. Checking our exhaust, making sure everything's tight and in place. All our sensors are intact, they're not rubbing on anything. coming down this side, just making sure everything's in place, making sure our body pads are in place, not cracked or damaged. Rear springs are okay. No play in our drive shaft where it goes into our rear differential. Checking our springs on this side again. Coming around to our tires, giving them a spin, making sure we have no nails in them, making sure we have adequate tread life on them. Coming around, I would do this on the front if I had front tires on it, but double checking our lug nuts, make sure they're tight and we have no rust trails coming off, you know, that could possibly indicate a loose lug nut. Making sure our tire sidewall is okay, making sure it's the proper size. Coming around, checking the back side of our rear spring, making sure our hardware is intact, making sure our springs aren't broken anywhere. Checking our rear brakes. These are fairly new brakes, so they have plenty of life left on them. Checking the rear hub seal where it comes on to the axle shaft for the rear differential, making sure we have no differential fluid, differential oil leaking out. Our shocks are good and tight. I don't see any oil coming out of our shocks, making sure they're good and tight. Our exhaust is mounted in place. All our hangers are in place, our body mounts are in place. Checking all our hardware. Rear bumpers in place, secure. Checking our exhaust hangers, making sure they're tight. Checking this side on the tire, making sure everything's okay. We have adequate tread life. I don't see any screws or nails in it. Double checking our lug nuts here, making sure everything's tight. And I did it on the other side as well, but our axle shaft seal, making sure no leaks around here, making sure it's good. Double checking our sidewall for wear, and it's the proper size tire. That's pretty much that on the inspection. Next, I'm going to grease the bus. Once I'm done greasing, or probably go ahead and drain the filter since I'm draining the oil, and then grease the bus while that's draining, then head up and grab a filter.
Taking up under the bus.
Again, everyone. Sorry the video was a bit fuzzy, but I hope hopefully y'all got something out of it. I know usually you all don't get to see what goes on in the shop, what takes place, but there's a whole bunch of steps that follow the turning in of the keys. There's a lot more than people realize, so certain things takes us a certain amount of time to get finished. So make that and have a better understanding of it. Looks like we may have a minute or two left, so if y'all do have any questions, y'all go ahead and shoot them. Anybody?
It was just feedback on somebody's phone, I think.
I'm sorry, the video's actually cut a bit short. I'm trying to find it and get it back playing.
But I think the
Go ahead, Dwayne.
So what would you say is the typical length of time for a monthly inspection?
Typically, if it's just a standard inspection, it doesn't need anything but looked over, about 30 minutes. But that is not typical. We usually find something that needs repaired. And depending on the repair, it could be, 30 minutes to 3 hours.
right, I got it back up, so I'm about to get it started again, Scotty.
Okay.
There we go.
Scotty,
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment.
Okay.
I would like to know from this video, I've learned a lot. The process you all go through to inspecting the buses, and I appreciate each and every one of you in the shop and the good care you take of us, making sure our bus is up and running to prevent any accidents. I wanted you to know I appreciate you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Great video.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Yes, Scott, this is John Monsalve. Yeah, I really appreciate that too, and really made me feel safe when I'm driving the bus. So thank you for that, and have a nice day.
I appreciate that. We do have a good group of guys, and they do take care of the buses.
Everything's exhaust there, not broken.
What holds the oil in the oil pan. I'm gonna come around and drain the filter. When we do that, that filter has a lot of oil in it. And if you just go to take it off, you're gonna make a mess and probably all over you as well. So while that's draining, I'm gonna head up to Napa and grab the filters that I need. We place our new oil filter on. Tightened up. Get this out of our way. Got our mileage on our filter. oil filter. Everything else, the fuel filter is up on top, so we'll lower the bus down to get. All right, I'm going to be changing out the fuel filter now. Let it drain for a second and try and make as little of a mess as possible. We're putting our fuel filter back in. Okay. Now that's done, most important step is putting the oil back in. And this particular engine holds 30 quarts of oil. So it'll take a second to fill. And there we go, 30 quarts. The tools. The next step, I basically
to know about this election and where both the Republican Party and Democratic Party is right now, that one party is doing everything they can to stop people from voting. One party is trying to do everything they can to let people vote. The fact that there's a party in this country, an organized political party, who believes that the only way they can hold power is to stop people from voting is incredibly anti-democratic.
Well, I'd like to thank you all for watching that. And again, I hope you all got something out of it. Any questions that do not get answered from the Q&A that'll be sent out to you after these meetings, just feel free to come by the shop and ask, and hopefully we can get them resolved for you. But I do have to hop off here and get on another one. So again, thank you all again.
Thanks, Scotty.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Sure.
Scotty. Awesome job for the whole shop.
Thanks, Scotty.
Thank you, Scotty.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Scotty. Good job.
Good morning, everyone. Now that Scotty has brought us all up to speed on what we all get to see on the shop, and if somebody can let me know, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Sir.
Awesome.
Yes,
Always
I can hear you.
I love it when that happens because I only say things that are very important.
I can hear you now.
So anyway, welcome everyone. I do want to take a minute to thank you guys for what you're doing out there. You're part of our unsung heroes through all of this craziness that's going on in our world right now. We could not do anything that we do without you guys being in your seats and doing what you do every day. And you guys do it as well as anybody in the country, or better than most folks in the country, from talking to some of the people I've talked to over the last 6 months about what's going on in other areas and other zones. And I just appreciate all that you guys do. We're going to take a few minutes this morning. This may or may not be a good thing, but we decided not to do this as a voiceover PowerPoint. I think we've voiceover PowerPointed you guys to death. So I've asked, we're doing this 4 times for 4 different groups. Y'all either get the luck of having me or my condolences for having me, but I'll be doing the presentation for you, and we're going to do it live. It's going to be a PowerPoint, but it will be done live. That gives me the chance to interject some things that I want to interject. It also gives me the chance to pause and ask if there's any question as we go through it. So if you'll bear with me as we go through this, and we'll get started here in just a second. Okay, hopefully on your screen, you see a picture of a bus that was involved in a minor accident. Everybody see that?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, good deal. Obviously,
Yes.
obviously this is not our school bus. It's actually a school bus out of Virginia that rolled with special needs kids on it. Everybody walked away from the accident because the drivers had done a really good job of securing, or the driver had done a really good job of securing the students who were in that bus. So we're going to go through this kind of slide by slide with some basic stuff about accidents. As you guys know, in operations, we get the joy of seeing every accident that happens comes across my desk, and I get to review it and look at it. And we're going to talk about some of those things as we go through this. But after we complete this unit today, you should be able to identify the contributing factors related to accidents. You should be able to describe and perform proper post-accident procedures. And then we're going to also talk about emergency evacuations a little bit toward the end of this. School bus accidents are costly in human suffering and economic costs. Each day the school bus is on the road, loaded with children, there's a potential for tragedy. Improper driving by the school bus driver, as well as improper driving by others in the environment, can cause accidents. Many accidents are avoidable by properly trained drivers who are attentive to their duties and follow the rules of the road. Accidents, breakdowns, and other delays affect the efficiency of a good pupil transportation program. To avoid accidents and minimize breakdowns and delays, drivers should be trained to deal with a variety of situations that may arise, and the drivers must fully be prepared for those emergencies. So first thing we're going to talk about is some of the factors that can contribute to an accident. And accidents are caused by a combination of factors, but they fall within three basic categories. We have the human factors, we have vehicle factors, and we have environmental factors. The human factors involve the behavioral actions and errors of the bus driver, while the vehicle factor can relate to aspects of the vehicle such as size, maneuverability, and the condition of the vehicle, which Scotty just showed us our vehicles are taken care of very well. Our environmental factors could include the roadway, other vehicles, pedestrians, passengers, animals, and of course the weather. If we understand how each factor affects the accidents, it could help us prevent the same combination of factors from producing a loss in the future. Knowledge of those contributing factors can help to avoid future accidents. So now we want to talk about some potential school bus accident situations. We can have issues during our loading and unloading procedures if the students aren't doing what we ask them to do. And as you guys know, students always do what we ask them to do, so we can rule that out as a factor for our bus drivers. We can also have accidents resulting from driver inattention. And the inattention can be the driver doing something that they shouldn't be doing, or in the case of, could be a driver that's attention is caught in their student mirror at the moment they're making a turn, and they lose their focus on making the turn properly. We can have accidents from children not following the rules, which we just discussed. Our children, we need to train our students to follow the rules because it helps keep them safe and also helps us do our job more safely. We can also have accidents that result from the driver's inability to control the vehicle. And then also accidents that result from improperly adjusted mirrors. And then one of our last components is accidents resulting from improper backing. And speaking of backing, as you guys know, I tortured you guys with the reverse serpentine, which you guys pulled off without a flaw, which I knew you would when I talked to Vicki about it. But anytime we're backing a bus, and I know that, we've had discussions about this, you tell us not to back buses, but then you give us all these events where we're backing buses. Our preferred method is that we not back a bus. But if we do back a bus, then we need to know how to do it. And we also need to use all the tools at our disposal. And of those tools, the most important is to use a spotter or someone to help guide you as you're doing the backing. If you're on a special needs bus and you have a monitor on the bus, then you have a built-in spotter. So anytime you're backing that bus, your assistant should go to the back of the bus to help guide you as you're backing that bus. So we need to use all the tools at our disposal before we attempt a maneuver that we think may get us in trouble, or better, like you're in, and provide you a an out for that. One of the accidents that comes to mind, we had a driver pull off of Roswell Road into an event. And when he pulled in, there was a bar that went across the top that said, I don't remember what the footage was, but he knew that the bus would not fit under that bar. So he had, in his mind, and when he wrote his statement, he had two options. One was to back the bus back out onto Roswell Road, which was not safe. The other was to go forward, which is what he did. He told the kids to bend over, put their heads down, cover their heads, and he drove under the bar and took the roof hatches off the bus as he did so. Unfortunately, the driver didn't think about the third option that he had, which was to call dispatch. We could have gotten the police down there to help him back safely onto Roswell Road. So those are the kind of decisions that we can help you make in dispatch, hopefully. And of course, if we told you to go ahead and pull under the bar, then it's our problem, not yours. So don't forget to use dispatch as your lifeline if you get in a situation where you're not comfortable. Next thing we want to talk about is how to avoid accidents. We need to instruct all of our students on the proper procedures for loading and unloading and emphasize all the safety precautions. That's why it becomes so critical to make sure that we're crossing children properly, or that we're asking kids to look right and left before they stepped off the step, off the bottom step of the bus, to make sure there's not a bicycle coming by or a car that's pulled up on the back of the bus and is running through. Can you guys give me just 1 second, please, and I'll be right back with you.
Sure.
Is this the Johns Creek org?
Yes, sir. We are in Johns Creek.
This is several orgs all in one.
Thank you so much.
Sorry. I was being distracted by what was going on in dispatch next door. So,
David, you good?
Anyway, where were we? What can be done to avoid accidents? Pay close attention to the driving task. Whenever we're driving that vehicle, we need to have our full attention on what's going on. And I know those of you, which are all of you, that drive students, know that at times it's very hard to keep your full attention on the road when you've got Susie and Billy having a war in the back of the bus. Always, if it gets to the point where the children are distracting you more than you think they need to be, pull the bus over and deal with the situation and get the bus back on the road. My next point on what can be done to avoid accidents is to gain the proper skills necessary to maneuver the bus and use good judgment. Do not move the bus if in doubt. We have numerous occasions where we've had drivers say, well, I thought I could do this okay, or I thought there was room for my bus to go through there. We need to make sure that we're comfortable with what we're about to do, or we need to stop the bus or shut it down and think about what we're about to do and make sure that we can pull it off safely without involving the students and the bus in an accident. Of course, not every accident occurs where you've got time to sit there and think about it. You have people that cross the lane on you, people that sideswipe you and hit your mirrors. Somebody's got their mic open. If you guys could check, make sure that all your mics are silenced, please. But in cases where you do have the chance to sit there and think about what you're about to do, make sure that you can pull off the maneuver you're about to make safely, which will prevent an accident and also prevent some of the losses that we've had with damage to our vehicles and other vehicles as well. Make sure that your mirrors are in proper adjustment at all times. We recommend that you pull your bus into a mirror grid at least once a month. Anytime that you're out for a couple of days, or out for a day and somebody else uses your bus, your mirrors are not going to be in adjustment like they were when you left, more than likely. So pull back into a mirror grid and check your mirrors to make sure that your mirrors are properly adjusted and you can see what you need to see. You need to make sure you conduct a thorough pre-trip and post-trip inspection so we can detect any vehicle defects that could cause an accident or a breakdown. My favorite story is I had a sped driver that called me and said that their lift wasn't working. So we took a bus out to them. We brought the lift back in, and of course, pre-tripping your lift is part of your pre-trip. And when we went to check and see what was wrong with the lift, it had been in the shop the day before, and they didn't reconnect the lift cables to the battery. So the lift wasn't working when we left the shop. So anything like that, we need to make sure that we're checking everything on our bus. We need to make sure our tires are properly inflated, make sure that our air brakes are working, and make sure all the equipment on the bus is working like it's supposed to work. We want to back only when necessary, and if it's safe to do so, and use a spotter if at all possible. And any time that you're in a situation where there are consistent hazardous conditions, you need to notify your supervisor so we can hopefully eliminate the bus having to go down that area, or we can get something done about those hazardous conditions. We had a driver yesterday that was in an area where they were filming and they had the road down to one lane. There were police at both ends of the area where they were shooting the movie. And unfortunately, they weren't doing a good job of controlling traffic, and they put her in a situation that she should not have ever been put in. And as a result, we wound up having an accident. So there are contributing factors at times that are outside our control. But had the other drivers that came through there made note that the traffic was heavy, we might have been able to reroute that bus and send it a different way. Our next slide we're going to talk about, I don't know why this quits working. Next slide we're going to talk about are our keys to success. You guys who have had the pleasure of having some type of accident, either preventable or non-preventable, know there's a process that we go through. We use that process to gain knowledge, because the more we know about what causes accidents, the more likely we are to avoid them in the future. So that's where some of our training stuff comes from. We look at what happened over the course of the last months or years. What are areas that we see that we think we can improve on? So knowledge is the key to success. That's a frequently quoted phrase, and it's very true, even within our transportation system. The more we know about a situation, the more likely we are to understand it. A detailed post-analysis of any event, accident, or breakdown provides the required understanding to help avoid a potential accident situation in the future. So we put you through what some of you have described as not a very pleasant experience, but we're not trying to beat up on anybody. We're not trying to make anybody feel like they made a horrendous error. We're trying to educate drivers on what went wrong and what we can do to fix it in the future. So as we learn and as we improve and as we get better with these things, then hopefully we can prevent more and more of the accidents that we seem to be getting into. So what do you do if you have an accident? This is not my PowerPoint, although I did make a few modifications. And this slide has a really bad error, because the very first thing you should do is stop your bus. Anytime you hit My favorite saying is anytime your bus makes contact with anything other than air or the road, then we need to have a conversation. So stop your bus. We want you to stay calm, which is hard to do in some cases. You know, it's a very stressful situation. We want you to secure your bus. What do we mean by secure the bus? We need to make sure that you shift to neutral, set your parking brake, turn on your flashers, switch off your engine. Make sure that, keep all the students on the bus. We want your first call to be to dispatch, because we can get 911 headed to your location if we need 911. If there are students on the bus, regardless of how minor the contact is, our policy is to call 911. And there are several reasons for that. One is from a liability standpoint. We need a record of who was on that bus. We've had instances where there were 8 kids on a bus that was tapped by another bus. By the end of the day, there's 30 kids showing up at the emergency room with complaining of neck and back problems. So it's very, very important that we get an official record of what students were on that bus. You need to check all the students on your bus for any injuries, and you need to assist them if it's necessary. And by checking them, it's not just standing at the front of the bus on a bus load of 40 kids and saying, is everybody okay? We need to go to each individual student and we need to ask them, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? And as we're doing that, anybody that indicates that they are not okay, we need to take note of it and get them to the proper authorities when those authorities get there. Number 6, place reflective triangles according to the guidelines if possible. Obviously, if you're driving a Reg Ed bus and you're the only adult there and you have students, you're not going to be able to replace the reflective triangles. However, if there's another motorist there or a bystander, you can ask them to put the triangles out for you if we need to do so. Those of you who've been here for a while, about 7 or 8 years ago, one of our training manuals had a picture of a teacher, of a driver putting out triangles. And as they were walking across the street or down the street to put out the triangles, the students were following along behind. So we obviously don't want to do that and get students off the bus unless it's necessary. Number 7, the emergency exit for the students if necessary. There are several reasons why we would take the students off the bus, and we'll get more into that when we get to emergency evacuation. While you're waiting on our accident investigator and the police to get there, you can go ahead and get a list of the students that are on the bus. You should have a route sheet on the bus with all the students listed. To be something as simple as just circling the names of those students that are on there, or putting a check by them, or whatever you need to do to indicate who was on the bus when the accident occurred. So we want the students to remain on the bus unless there's a threat of fire, or if there's a possibility of the bus being hit by another vehicle due to the position that the bus is in after the accident. If there's the possibility, if you were in floodwaters and the water is rising, obviously we want to get the students off the bus. If the bus was on railroad tracks, we would want to get students off the bus. If there were any down power lines, if we made contact with a power pole, or there was a power pole and there's down power lines, more than likely we're going to leave them on the bus until instructed to do so by the authorities. The information that you need to notify when you notify dispatch, you need to give us your bus number. I know it comes up on the radio, but it just makes things quicker. Your bus number, your location, if you have students on the bus, I'm still here. Hang on just 1 second. My phone is blowing up. Okay. Need to give them your bus number, your location, if you have students on the bus, if there are any injuries. Also, a description of the other vehicle if you have it. 911 asks for that information in case the vehicle leaves the scene. The most important thing for us to get from you is, are there any injuries to the students? Because literally the moment we get that information, it's sent out to the admin team all the way to Dr. Looney so that everyone is aware of what is going on. We always get this question, especially in the afternoons. My bus has been involved in an accident. I have students on the bus. We've been sitting here for 20 minutes. We haven't seen the police. But Susie has a softball game to get to and her mother's here. Can I give her to her? The answer is no. Until the police release the scene, we cannot allow anyone to leave that scene. So as parents start showing up, and of course with helicopter parents anymore, every one of them knows, you know, with here comes the bus, they can track exactly where the bus was. Or if they're 3rd grade and above, they probably have a cell phone, so mom and dad can track where they are with that. So parents will start showing up almost immediately after the accident, because we do send out a notice that the bus has been involved in an accident. As you're collecting information on the students, make sure that you get a list of who is on there. The route sheet has most of the information we need, which is their address. If there are any witnesses that come up to the bus and say, hey, I saw what happened or whatever, we want to get their name and phone number as well. An important thing from risk management is that we do not accept the blame for anything that has happened. Don't say, oh, I'm sorry I hit you, because remember there's a camera right there recording every word you say. Through open records, you know, let the police decide who was at fault. You may have hit them, but they may have pulled out in front of you. Or you may have hit them and another car hit them. Or, you know, there's lots of factors that involve who was at fault in an accident. So don't automatically say, oh, I'm sorry that I hit you or anything like that, because like I said, there is a camera there that's recording everything. And then the last thing we want you to do as far as that is we want you to complete the route, taking the students home if possible. And that will determine, of course, the nature and the severity of the accident. If we can get you a spare bus out there in time or another bus to come by to pick up the students. I want to pause right here for a second and see if anyone has any questions about accident procedures. Trying to figure out how to reopen this thing. I bored everybody to death. Okay. Moving right along. Okay, moving right along. Let's talk about driver negligence for a moment. And this is not just related to you, it's also related to drivers on other vehicles. But driver negligence is defined as when someone acts carelessly, fails to act at all, and that action or inaction results in an injury or loss to another person. It can occur when we don't follow all the rules and regulations and don't practice safe driving habits. And then number 2 is kind of an eye-opener for all of us, hopefully, is that the driver can be held personally responsible if a risk is taken and an accident occurs. A risk that comes to mind is you've got a route that takes you come out a side street onto a 4-lane road, and your route sheet tells you to turn right to go down to Billy's house. Well, today Billy's not on the bus, and instead of turning right, as your route sheet says, you try to cross 4 lanes of traffic, and in doing so, your bus is struck by a vehicle, and someone is badly injured. In that case, you have put yourself and the school system at risk because you're not following what was on your route sheet. And that gets to be a very fine line at times, because we've all been on routes where we make changes to the route because of students either A, not riding, or B, there's a traffic accident and those kind of things. And that's why we ask you to notify dispatch before you reroute. And most of you guys are really good at that. We get calls almost daily from drivers saying, hey, there's a bad accident up here on Hopewell and we need to go this way. Just always be aware that we kind of have a policy in Fulton County not to make left turns across 4 lanes of traffic. So if you happen to run across that and see it on a route sheet, have a discussion about it with your supervisor. Because we are as human as the rest of you, and we might make a mistake from time to time. I know I do, and if you don't believe me, you can ask my dispatchers. They'll let you know. Anyway, just be careful out there. The safest thing that you can do is run your route sheet exactly as it's designed and drawn up. Or if you see that you're doing something that you're not comfortable with, have that conversation with your supervisor, because they want you to be successful and safe, as do I, because I don't need any more paperwork on my desk. Anyway, next slide, hopefully. Some items that could be considered driver negligence. Eating or drinking on the bus, talking on a cell phone, texting on a cell phone, pulling out your cell phone at a traffic light. I'm going to give you a perfect example of a driver that wound up losing their job by doing something totally that probably we all think might be okay. He pulled up to a traffic light. He left a gap between the car in front of him and his bus. He got a text. His phone was in his pocket. He reached into his pocket, pulled out the phone, looked at the text. The light turned green, and without looking up, he started to go forward. Well, while he was looking at the text, a car had pulled out of the driveway that he had left a gap for and was sitting right in front of his bus. And he hit that car. So not only did he get a citation from the police department for using a cell phone, but he wound up losing his job because of driver inattention and driver negligence. So we need to make sure. Cell phones are the devil. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, whether it's in your personal vehicle or in your bus. Cell phones need to be put away when you're behind the wheel. As you guys know, Georgia has a hands-free law that has made a huge difference in the number of vehicle-ahead accidents in the state of Georgia. If you guys remember back about 2.5 years ago, it was like every day somebody would run into the back of one of the buses. And it's just like, what are these people looking at? Well, what they're looking at was the screen on their cell phone. So once we go into hands-free, that has eliminated that to a great extent. So these are our post-accident procedures from Fulton County. and I know you guys can read, and I've tried not to read slides to you, but I'm going to read this one to you because this came straight from our admin team. So our post-accident procedure is to report regardless of the circumstances, regardless of how small or how serious, or if you think the accident is preventable or non-preventable, any accident or incident may be, all accidents or incidents must be reported properly and immediately to dispatch. Anytime your vehicle makes contact with another object, and that object could be a vehicle, a sign, a mailbox, a post, another bus, a tree, a big tree branch that cracks your mirror or hits the top of your bus, you must call dispatch immediately. Do not wait to call dispatch until you drop the kids off, because Lord knows we got 14 middle schoolers on our bus and I need to get them off as quick as I can. And if I call dispatch, they're going to be sitting here for 30 minutes with me on my bus. So please, please, please don't wait to call dispatch, and do not leave the scene of the incident. Radio dispatch as soon as the accident or incident has happened, and follow what we tell you to do. Reporting an accident incident is mandatory. So please make sure that you are following the Fulton County policy and procedure for accident reporting, incident reporting. In a lot of cases, it's nothing other than we just want to document, hey, we got a tree branch hanging low on the road and we need to get it taken care of. So, obviously if you're driving down a road in the middle of the morning or middle of the night at 6 o'clock in the morning and you hit a tree branch, you're not going to know if the branch did damage to the top of the vehicle. So at your earliest convenience, pull the bus over, take a look at it. At your earliest convenience, pull the bus to the side, take a look at it, make sure there's no damage. If there is damage, call and notify dispatch. Moving right along. This is kind of what we covered earlier. Provide bus number, location, students on board, anybody injured. Make sure you walk through the bus asking every student individually if they are injured. Let's talk for a minute about mechanical breakdowns. So you're out on your route and your bus is broken down. What can you do? First thing we want to do is move the vehicle as far to the right as possible. If there's a decel lane to get into, the right lane of a multi-lane road, whatever, get on the shoulder, but don't pull onto a shoulder that may or may not hold the bus. Bus, shut it down, flashers, that kind of thing. If you have passengers on your bus, don't unload them unless there's potential danger. Make sure you set reflective triangles according to the guidelines. And we'll go over those again in a minute, I believe. Radio dispatch for assistance, and we'll get somebody out to you as quickly as we can. Again, that's all ties into maintenance, and we've gotten rid of a lot of buses that we were having a lot of trouble with, so breakdowns are not as prevalent as they were a couple of years ago. So again, if your bus does break down, do everything you can to secure the bus and keep the students safe until we can get you a replacement bus out there. This goes back over our accident procedures summary. This is everything that we've just covered. If you guys get really, really bored, this is being recorded, so you can always watch this again in the future, but this is everything we just went over with what to do in the case of an accident. On your bus, you should have emergency triangles, and this is, of course, all part of your pre-trip. You should have a fire extinguisher. You need to make sure that the fire extinguisher is fully charged. You should have a first aid kit and a body fluid cleanup kit, and you should also have a seatbelt cutter. Special needs buses all are equipped with seatbelt cutters, and the new propane buses, because they have seatbelts, are also equipped with seatbelt cutters. So make sure those items are on your bus and are properly working and are ready to go and ready to be used in the case of an emergency. We talked about triangles a little while ago. This is not something that we've probably gone over since training, but if your vehicle breaks down on a 2-lane road, you would place your triangles up to 100 feet in front of the bus, 10 feet, and 100 feet behind the bus. And again, we would only place those triangles if there were not students on the bus or if we could get another adult to place those for us. And typically 10 minutes is what we say. If the bus is going to be in that location for more than 10 minutes, we want to get triangles out. But again, only if it's safe to do so. If you're on a hill or a curve, that triangle that's 100 feet back should be put up to 500 feet back, just to warn motorists that that there is a broken down vehicle ahead. If you're on like if you're broken down on the side of 400, all 3 triangles go behind the bus at 10, 100, and 200 feet. Again, with that last triangle being up to 500 feet if you are on a hill or a curve, so that people can see see that there is a vehicle broken down ahead of them or that there's a danger ahead of them. Your first aid kit should be properly stocked. Most of them have a zip tie that closes them. If the zip tie has never been opened, then hopefully they're fully stocked. If you do wind up using anything out of your first aid kit, see the shop. They will get that equipment replaced for you so that it does return to the fully stocked condition. We also have body fluid cleanup kits on the bus, which contains personal protective equipment. Anytime you use a body fluid cleanup kit, you need to get a replacement from the shop. You use caution when handling these fluids. The world has changed, so that's obvious that we would do everything we could to stay safe while we were handling anything like that on the bus. Operating the fire extinguisher, remove it from the bracket. I love number 2, position yourself with a means of escape before attempting to extinguish it. So I guess don't get yourself between the fire and someplace you can't get away from. Pull the pin, and this is the pass system. Pull the pin, aim at the base of the fire, squeeze the top handle lever, sweep from side to side. And then of course, once you have used your extinguisher, the bus has to be cleaned, and that would have to be done by the shop, but we'd also replace the fire extinguisher before transporting students on that bus again. Bus evacuations. Every year we do 2 bus evacuations a year. That is required by the state of Georgia. So those dates and times are set up, and we do have bus evacuations coming up in the very near future. There are many ways to evacuate the bus. We can do a front door evacuation. We can do a rear door evacuation. We can split the students and evacuate through the rear door and the front door. If the bus were on its side, we could do a roof hatch evacuation. If we had to, we could do a window evacuation by using the emergency windows on the bus. If we do exit the bus through the rear door, the students should sit down at the back of the bus, sit down on the floor, and then step out that way, not stand and jump out of the back of the bus. As we're getting back to transporting students in a more normal fashion, we need to get student helpers on all our routes. Those student helpers should be trained in the use of how to use your radio. They should know how to set the emergency brake, so that in case you're incapacitated, they can at least call dispatch and let them know what's going on.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. Thank you all for being present. Right now, we're going to take a break. We'll resume at 9:30, so leave your sessions up. Thank you.
Hey guys, the Johns Creek guys, don't log off. Well, everyone, don't log off. Just leave your system up, and you could go just chill. Come on back, and we restart where we left off. Thanks.
So Pedro, I don't log out. Just stay on the.
Yeah, just stay on it. Just leave it. Just almost like if nothing has happened. And just go do your thing. If you need to, go make some coffee and come on back. But just leave it where it is.
9:30, right?
Brian, I did not get the time, but just get back as soon as possible.
Yeah, can we do it for 9 o'clock or something? Because I'm on my phone and just to have this up and running, I'm going to be eating at my battery.
I am not the person who's conducting the meeting, really. I'm just here pretty much a bystander, trying to get everyone pretty much help with the session.
I'm trying to stay in this one because this is my head boss. He the one
Pardon me?
talking now.
Can you repeat that, please?
What? Okay.
Huh? The same stuff. It's the same stuff that we do every day at work. Is what we do because they technically want us to work on Wednesdays when we don't really work on Wednesdays.
Okay, guys, do your videos. I don't know.
Brian said don't log off. Brian Chapman, but he came in there and said, this session's ending, the next one will start at 9:30, but don't log off. I don't know why, I don't know. Good morning, everybody. Is everybody still here, mostly?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I'll go ahead. There were a couple more things I wanted to go over. I don't know what happened to my system. I got shut down, and I guess Brian thought I was done. I'm going to go ahead and go over a couple of things with everyone. Our summary, we want you to report every accident or incident to dispatch, no matter how minor or how insignificant you may think it is. Please drive defensively. We all did the defensive driving class because the lives of our precious cargo depends on it. Assign your student helpers to help you. And then please, please, please utilize dispatch. We are your lifeline. We are here to help you. And then I've got, we had several questions that were asked from the driver survey that was sent out, and I want to go over some of those that pertain to operations. Field trips. We were asked how field trips are assigned. Field trips are assigned based on, number one, driver availability. Can the driver get to the location where the field trip is? Does the driver have enough to run the field trip? And then lastly, has the driver registered for field trips? There is a brief video that shows how our new system works. It's a digital system. Everything's done online. I think everybody is starting to figure that out and how that works. And it's much easier on our side, and hopefully it is on the driver's side as well. We also had a question asked about the 3-day window. When you get a field trip, you're given 3 days to respond. What happens if a trip is assigned for tomorrow? If we're assigning a trip for less than the 3-day window, my field trip assistants should be calling you and asking, can you run the trip before they assign it to you? Because it's not fair to assign you a trip and then be mad at you that you didn't take it when we didn't give you any notice of that trip. So, so if that's going on, please let me know, or let Dondrell know on the south side. We've also had a question asked about masks. What can we do if chaperones and students aren't wearing masks? Fulton County policy requires the use of masks on all field trips. So when we're doing those field trips, if you have somebody not wearing a mask, then you will remind them of the Fulton County policy. If that doesn't work, then notify your supervisor. We'll pull the video, send it to the school, and very soon that team will not be having field trip service if they can't follow the procedures. We also had a question asked about the hire date on the field trip registration form. What do we use the hire date for? There are some systems, and this program is used by multiple systems across the country, that assign their field trips based on seniority. We do not do that. Our field trips are assigned based on, it rotates through the drivers, but it also looks at driver availability and driver hours. So there is no seniority involved. You can put any date down that you want to. Doesn't matter if it's 20 years ago or last week. Any date there just to complete the field, because I think it requires it. We also had a question, what happens if I have an accident on a field trip? Call the hotline that all of you that are driving field trips should have in your phones, which is the 770-929-6842. After hours, when you call that number, it's a live person on an answering service, and then they call me. If the trip is a north trip, they call Dondrell if it's a south trip. So that answering service answers 24/7, and of course I answer the answering service 24/7. The questions that came up. What are the hours of dispatch? 4:45 to 6:30 are when the phones are live. I'm typically here at 4 o'clock. There's typically somebody here till 7 o'clock in the afternoons, but the phones are only live from 4:45 to 6:30. If you have a tree limb or branch on your route, what do you do about it? Contact your assistant supervisor. They will notify the area where the branches or limbs are that need to be trimmed, and we'll get that taken care of for you. We were asked about, could we have the dispatch radios roll if they're busy? Unfortunately, that system will not allow us to do that. If you're trying to get through to dispatch and you can't, and at times it's nuts in here. If you can't reach us, contact your assistant supervisor, your supervisor. Call me direct on the radio. Call Brian direct on the radio. If you need to get somebody, please feel free to call any supervisor or assistant if you can't get through to dispatch. We do our best to get back to everybody in the order that they called, but at times it's really, really nuts in here. And my favorite thing, Nobody ever loves to come see me because anytime I call a driver and say, come see me, I'm sending you for a drug and alcohol test more than likely. We do about 25% of our drivers each quarter. So we have drivers that, and it's totally random. So those of you like me that get picked every quarter, it's not random, it's profiling, but that's another story. But we have drivers. I had a driver come in yesterday that this is the first time in 6 years that they've done drug and alcohol tests. Also had a driver come in yesterday that was in here 3 weeks ago because he was chosen for the last quarter. So it's every quarter. So literally you could go 4 times during the year. But it is random. We use a company out of California that generates the list of names that are pulled. We also had a question about skills, about CITs riding with people as they go through their skills to train them on how to do that. The skills are not a training exercise. It's an assessment of the skills of each driver. Those skills are in some part generated by the state of Georgia. We have to take you through a railroad crossing. We have to student and unloading on a rotating basis. We have to do something else. Can't remember what the other one is. There are 3 mandatory state skills. The others we have flexibility in, and we base those, as I mentioned earlier, we base those a lot on what kind of accidents we're doing. We do right turn and left turn every year. We do serpentine and diminishing clearance every year. The backing exercises were due to the number of backing accidents we were having. So that explains that. If at any time you want to work on a skill, if your org is down for the day and you're available, talk to my training department, and we'll be glad to help set up a skills course and work with you on anything that you feel like you need to work on. And it's kind of caught my eye. Nationally, there's 63,000 school bus accidents every year. Those are not at-fault accidents. Those are just accidents involving a school bus. 14,000 of those result in an injury to someone, and 325 fatal injuries. Usually in a bus versus a car, it's the car driver that's going to get killed. So there are a huge number of accidents. We also have, I don't remember the number, there's 25 million school buses on the road, something like that. So not a lot of accidents percentage-wise, but it's too many. And if we lose one student, we've lost one student too many. So do everything you can do out there to be safe. And that's all I've got. If anybody has any questions for me, I will be glad to answer them. Your next thing starts at 9:30, but I'm here if you have any questions.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, guys, and thanks for being here. I know there's other places you'd rather be.
Thank you. Hey, I didn't fall asleep, so it's all good.
Well, I almost did, so it was close.
Well, I can't help that, but I'm still awake, so it's all good.
All right. Y'all have a wonderful day.
Thanks. You too. Thanks for your presentation time.
Bye, Jim. Thank you so much.
Okay, Jim. Where's Rita Rames?
Yes, Mr. Haynes, what's up?
I'm just saying, hey.
Oh, I'm saying hey back to you.
Why do I feel like I'm in trouble?
You're not. I'll let
sure?
you know. Oh, I will let you know if you're in trouble. You're good.
That is so true. That is so true.
All right, you have a good one.
For once, that's usually me everybody's saying I'm in trouble, Pedro. That's good. I'm glad it's you and not me this time.
Hold on.
Well,
Don't say
you know,
that.
we always have the notorious.
Did he say come back at 9:30?
So, you know, we have some of the notorious people. So you're one of them, Ms. Thompson.
Miss Thompson. And yes, 9:30.
What was that? That's let me see.
I'll give you a hint. I'm not sure you can pronounce my last name.
Let me go through the okay, what's your last name?
Well, that gives it away. It's Rockinage.
Rockinage.
It's the one with the picture of the dog in the pool.
Oh, okay.
That's
Okay.
me.
Well, I'm gonna close my mouth for a little bit of time so you guys could just relax, and so that Felicia don't have to hear my voice too much. Where's Joanne? She's here.
You're so funny.
Where's Joanne? Are doing? Where is she? Joanne, how are you?
Yes,
Hey,
I am.
Pedro,
Good
are we done for the
morning.
day
On
or
the
we got
good
to go
note.
and come back?
Yeah. Did I ever tell you guys the story about Joanne when she almost choked me to sleep?
Pedro and his stories.
Pedro, go have a cup of coffee, okay? I'll be back at 9:30.
Okay, I heard you. I'm gonna do that. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. I don't know how many of you all are in front of your computer right now or can hear me. I know we said we'll get started at 9:30, but we'll go ahead and resume with Ethan Martin.
All right.
I'm here.
Good morning, everybody. How we doing? Actually, don't
Good
answer
morning,
that.
Ethan. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm good. Mute those microphones. Otherwise, it's going to make a ton of racket. I'm sorry. I am excited to share with y'all just a quick PowerPoint. We're going to go over some general transportation topics. So at the end, I'm going to give you a chance to ask some questions. Please make sure that those questions are general transportation questions and nothing org specific. If you've got specific org questions pertaining to your route, pertaining to your schools, pertaining to your park location, something like that, please get with your own supervisor and they'll cover those topics with you. This is for general transportation information. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. You guys should see the PowerPoint. If you don't see it, Brian, if you will jump back in and yell at me and tell me that it is not working. And all right, so this is our transportation meeting for October 7th, 2020. Here's our agenda. Here's what we're going to cover today. We'll talk about PTU, driver evaluations, speeding, that's personal vehicles, and on the bus. We'll talk a little bit about assigned seating as well as contact tracing. We'll cover a small field trip topic. I was in your meeting just a little while ago, saw Jim was covering some field trip topics there. So we're not going to dive too deep into that. It's a very small portion. And then again, at the end, we'll have a Q&A. That Q&A is going to be partly what some of the questions that you guys asked on your questionnaire that was sent out to all the drivers. But we're also going to open that up for you guys to ask any questions that you may have. So we'll move on. PTU. Those of you who have been here for a while, you know what PTU is. You know how it works. But for those of you who may be new and may have some questions, let's talk about Pupil Transportation University for just a moment. Pupil Transportation University, shortened is PTU, as you'll see there on the screen. And it is scheduled to take place at the conclusion of this school year. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we were not able to have PTU last year, and that was a shame because it's a wonderful thing that Fulton County does. However, this year we are planning to do it. What is that going to look like? I don't know. I'm not sure that anybody really knows at this point. Will it be all on Microsoft Teams? Will it be in person? I don't know. All I know is that we're going to have it, and I'm very, very excited for that. So those of you who may be new, you may not know what Pupil Transportation University is, so let me give you just a quick idea of what that is. It's a 3-day class that you have to apply for and be accepted into. And if you're accepted into it, you, in a normal year, would come here to the transportation lot the week after school ends. And again, like I said, it's a 3-day class where you sit and you learn from anybody from trainers to dispatchers to assistant supervisors, You hear from the coordinator, you hear from the director, the executive director. You get an overview of what Fulton County Schools transportation looks like from an office standpoint. So why would you be interested in that? Well, maybe you're sitting out there right now and you're thinking, driving a bus is not all I want to do in Fulton County. I want to do more. I want to advance my career. I want to take on greater challenges. I want to do something new and exciting. Fulton County offers you a path to do that. By attending Pupil Transportation University, you set yourself up very well for a promotion to another level, whether that is dispatch or training or assistant supervisor, all the way up to executive director of Fulton County Schools Transportation. There is a path that Fulton County has set forward or set out for you to take and advance in your career. So like I said, you come, you sit through classes for 2 days, and then on the 3rd day, there's a wonderful graduation celebration that we have where we hand out diplomas, and it's a really, really cool thing that Fulton County does for the drivers. So that's what it is. How do you do it? How do you get into it? Selection for Pupil Transportation University is based on your evaluation score and your driver skills rodeo score, and you see on your screen there, we take 75% of your evaluation score into or your selection is based on 75% of the evaluation score, and the other 25% is made up of that driver skills score. They combine those two. They take all the applicants that have put in an application, they look at the scores, and they select the top ones to attend Pupil Transportation University. So we're going to talk about evaluation score here in just a minute. So pay attention to that. If you're interested in Pupil Transportation University, that will give you an idea of things you need to do to get a good evaluation score. We've already done our driver skills, so that has already been completed. And you will be notified when the application process begins. Be listening to announcements, be checking your email. You will see information come out about Pupil Transportation University and the application process that goes along with that. With that being said, I'm just going to throw this in because it's kind of a pet peeve of mine. Check your emails. Check your emails every single day, 2 or 3 times a day. I don't know, make it a habit. When you wake up in the morning, check them. When you get off your bus in the morning, check them. When you get off your bus in the afternoon, check them. There's a ton of information being pushed out to you via email this year. So please, please, please make sure that you are getting accustomed to checking that email at least once a day so that we don't have anything slip through the cracks. That's Pupil Transportation University. We want you to apply. We want you to attend. So be on the lookout for that. Moving on, we'll talk about the evaluation scoring and what that's going to look like this year. Every year, drivers are evaluated based on their performance. And that evaluation score is broken down into many different categories, as you can see here on your screen. This particular information can be found in the reference manual, which is on the bus driver corner. If you go to the bus driver corner and you look on the right banner, you're going to see a line that says driver reference manual. If you click on that, it'll bring you to another screen where you would click on the additional information tab there. Scroll all the way to the bottom. It's literally the last page on the screen. You'll find what you're seeing here on your screen. You can print that off. You can take a look at it and see what you're going to be evaluated on. Again, you'll see here at the second bullet point, evaluation score is used to assign extra work. So if you're someone who enjoys doing tags or CBIs or helping in the shop or doing any of that extra work that may be out there, we do use evaluation scores to determine who gets to take those positions. We want to make sure that our drivers who are showing up and being exemplary employees are the ones who are receiving the extra work. So again, your evaluation score affects your entrance into Pupil Transportation University. It could also affect your extra work that is assigned as well. That does not affect your field trips. Let me make that very clear. Field trips are not in any way impacted by your evaluation score. Totally different thing. That is not included. I want to make that clear so that there were no questions there, no assumptions of favoritism. That is not the case with field trips. So what are you evaluated on? What are we looking at? What are we trying to determine with this evaluation? Well, we want to make sure you're driving safely. We want to make sure that you are working with great professionalism. Very important here, we want to make sure that your attendance is exemplary. Perfect attendance is what we shoot for. That is the expectation. However, we know that life does get in the way and things do happen, and we are in an unusual year where COVID is a real thing that we have to consider. So if you are absent for any COVID-related reason, that will not impact your attendance for your evaluation. So please know that. And then finally, preventable accidents. This one is extremely important, probably the most important of all. We want to avoid accidents as much as possible. I heard Jim mention just a moment ago at the end of his presentation that if we lose one child, we have lost one child too many. And that statement hit me pretty hard. We want you to be safe. We want you to be here. We want you to work in a very professional manner. But most of all, we want to keep our children safe on the bus. That is the number one thing that we're trying to do here at Fulton County Transportation. So you have had time, as I have rambled on, to look here on your screen at the things that are being evaluated. Again, you can find this on the bus driver corner, which is located under reference manual and then additional information. So please go take a look at that. If you have any questions concerning that, you can ask those today. I'll be glad to answer those, but this is the first time I've seen this was this morning, so I may not have a great answer for that. So that's evaluation. We will move on now to speeding in general and speeding in school zones. So you see two different vehicles here on the screen. We've got our play vehicles on your left, and we've got our work vehicles on the right. I don't drive a convertible, but typically I drive fast enough that my hat does fly off. That's very similar to how it looks when I drive my play vehicle. That's not true. I'm a very safe driver. But we do have our play vehicles and our work vehicles. So the question would be, is there a difference? While they may look different, is there a difference in the way we should maneuver them, the way we should drive them? No, not really. Because drivers must always obey the designated speed limit while driving your school bus and your personal vehicle. Why is that important? Because any ticket that you receive could put points on your license, whether that's in a bus or in your personal vehicle. Points on your license can lead to a suspended license. And if you don't have a license, then, well, quite frankly, you can't work. You are no good to Fulton County without a valid commercial driver's license. So when you're out there on the road in your personal vehicle, please be mindful of your speed. Please be mindful of how safe you are driving. I know if you travel down to Panama City and you get on those interstates and they're just forever long and you're excited about the beach and you're ready to get there and put your toes in the sand and enjoy that salty breeze, you may bump it up to 90, 100 miles an hour. I don't know. There's some long stretches. Please don't do that. A ticket in your personal vehicle could affect your job standing here at Fulton County Schools, and you are far too important to us for us to lose you. So please be mindful of your speed, even in your personal vehicles, but also in your school bus. Below these bullet points here, you'll see a list of roads that have where drivers have been pulled over in their school bus for speeding. You can read through those yourself. But you'll see the bottom one, Scarborough, which I'm not exactly sure where that is. I believe it's in South County somewhere. 3 tickets have been issued at this location. Let me just say this. You don't want to get a ticket on your school bus. That's not something you want to do because you may not be driving a school bus for much longer. But that's not the main reason. We'll revert back to what we just mentioned a moment ago. The safety of our students is the #1 thing that we are to be concerned about. When you are driving your bus and you have students on board, the maximum speed limit is 40 miles per hour. However, if the posted speed limit is 35 miles per hour, you should go 35 miles per hour or less. If the posted speed limit is 25 miles per hour, you should go 25 miles per hour or less. With students on board, we can drive up to 40 miles per hour or up to the speed limit. So please make sure that you are mindful of the speed limits along your route. More importantly, be mindful of the school zones that you are driving in. As you approach your schools or you're driving past other schools, you'll see the flashing signs that have 25 mile per hour speed limit or a 35 mile per hour speed limit, depending on where you are. The last thing you want to do is get pulled over in a school zone. So please be mindful of your speed, both in your personal vehicle and your school bus, because again, tickets may cause points on the license, and points on the license could lead to a license suspension. We don't want that. So be mindful, slow down in your vehicles. We'll talk now about speed on Fulton County Schools property. The speed limit here on lot is 10 miles per hour. I'll be quite honest with you. I see a lot of folks driving a lot faster than 10 miles per hour. And that scares me because when it's dark and we can't see, you're very likely to hit someone. It's happened before, but we don't want it to happen again. So please be mindful of the speed limit here on lot at 10 miles per hour. That is both in your personal vehicle and in your school bus. Speed limit on all school property is 5 miles per hour. And as you are entering the loading zone, your speed limit is 2 to 3 miles per hour. If you have been instructed by your supervisor to do otherwise, follow your supervisor's instructions, but get with them if you have any questions regarding your specific schools and speed limits. Safety is the key to our professional positions. Move on now to a topic that in my org meetings that we've had in the Milton org, we have had quite a bit of discussion about. I hope this will help clear some things up today as far as assigned seating goes. But let's just jump into it. You should have already began creating your assigned seats because those are due to your supervisor by October the 23rd. If you have not yet printed off or asked somebody to print off your assigned seating charts, please go ahead and jump on the driver corner and get those printed off. If you need help printing those off, you can get with your supervisor or your assistant supervisor, and I'm sure they will be more than happy to assist you with that. But let's get started setting those up and have those turned into our supervisors by October 23rd. Why are seating charts important? Well, quite frankly, they've always been important. You want to know where your students are when they're on the bus. If something were to happen, you can pull out your seating chart and give accurate information to your supervisor, to your school officials, if they were to need that. However, this year with COVID, we must know where every student is sitting at all times for contact tracing purposes. So this is what has been proposed that we do to help with our assigned seating to make things a little more simple. You'll see here, it says assigned seating. Our suggestion is to use a whiteboard marker to number each seat. You do not need to put names up. Just simply down the sides of your bus, you're going to number your seats. As it says here, on the passenger side, you begin with number 1. Then the next seat would be 3. The next seat back would be 5. The next seat back would be 7, all the way to the back of the bus. The driver's side would be 2, 4, 6, 8, all the way to the back of the bus. You then take your seating chart, which you have the seats numbered on your seating chart, and you write the students' names who sit in that seat on your seating chart. We don't necessarily care where that student sits in the seat that they're assigned to, just that they are in the seat that they are assigned to. What do I mean by that? We don't care if Jimmy sits by the window on Tuesday and then Jimmy sits by the aisle on Wednesday. Doesn't matter. All we care about is that Jimmy sits in seat number 3 on the passenger side every single time Jimmy is on the bus. That way, if somebody were to come back and say that their child had tested positive for COVID, then we could go look at our bus, our seat chart, and know for a fact that they were in close relation with Jimmy, and we could take appropriate steps. So our seating charts are very important. Numbering of the seats is very important. We are going to use a whiteboard, dry erase markers to do that. Please do not use adhesives on your bus. We don't want every bus on the lot being stickied up above the windows. So please make sure you're using those whiteboard markers. As students enter the bus in the morning and in the afternoon, they will need to turn to the camera and state their name. They'll keep their mask on, keep themselves covered so that they're not expelling their saliva all over you. But they will need to turn to the camera both in the morning and in the afternoon and state their name in a loud enough voice that they can be heard by the camera. Why are we doing this? While a seating chart is great, we're not necessarily you're not taking attendance on your bus every day to know who is there. If we have a situation where there is a positive COVID test on a school bus or in a school, we may need to pull the hard drive on the bus in order to go back and see who was on the bus that day. If we have students stating their name to the camera, then we'll know who was on the bus, and then we can trace them to the seat that they were in. This is for elementary, middle, and high school. I don't think you'll have any issues with your elementary school students getting them to do this. Elementary school kids will pretty much do what you tell them for the most part. Middle school and high school tend to want to fight back on things like this because they think they're too big, they think they're too old, they just don't want to do silly things that their bus driver is asking them to do. However, it is non-negotiable. You must, absolutely must have these students saying their names each and every day in the camera. You don't want your hard drive pulled and somebody seeing that you have not been doing this. It's kind of like the seat belts. We make the effort to go to every seat and tell every student, hey, put your seatbelt on. You need to be wearing your seatbelt. Please make sure you're buckled up. If they choose not to, you notify your supervisor and you go from there. Same thing here. Make the effort. Be seen on camera telling your students every day to state their name. That way you cover yourself and you have done what you've been asked to do by Fulton County Schools. Both seating charts and asking kids to speak their names to the camera are for contact tracing purposes. I hope you all understand this. I hope this is not a big ask. I know that it's new. Everything's new. Everything is different. Everything it's just piling on, it seems. But it is extremely important for the safety of our kids, but not only for the safety of our kids, but for the safety of our drivers as well, that you are performing these tasks appropriately. So that's assigned seats, that's seating charts, that's contact tracing. I'm sure there may be more questions on that, and that'll be fine. I'll answer what I can. But we will move on now to drivers' children and field trips. Drivers' children are permitted on Fulton County buses only if they are enrolled in a Fulton County school. Let me emphasize that. Drivers' children are permitted on field trip buses only if they are enrolled in a Fulton County school. Students enrolled in Atlanta public schools or private schools are not permitted on the bus at any time. Fulton County has insurance, and insurance only covers Fulton County school employees and Fulton County schools students who are actively and currently enrolled in Fulton County schools. So if someone were to bring a child on a bus or another family member or anybody that is not associated with Fulton County schools, and there were to be an accident or someone were to slip going down the stairs and get injured, we might have a potential issue on our hands. So please do not allow any students or any children on the bus other than those who are enrolled in Fulton County schools. Gonna leave that there. That's all I got there. So a little while back, a questionnaire was sent out by, I believe Jamal sent that out to you guys, and you were able to ask some questions. And now we want to answer some of those. I've only chosen a handful of these to answer. We'll talk in a moment about the other ones. So a question was asked about student write-ups and what that process looks like, who fills out student write-ups, who do you hand them into, what happens after that. The driver is responsible for filling out student write-ups. If you don't have any of those student write-up forms on your bus, I would encourage you to contact your supervisor and get some of those. The driver will fill that form out and turn that form into the supervisor. The supervisor may follow up with any questions concerning the incident that took place. But once all information has been gathered by the supervisor from the driver, the supervisor will then pass that information along to the school, and from there the school takes over. They take the write-up, the referral, and they begin to take action. They'll call the student to the office in some cases and have a conversation with them. The actions that the school takes depends on the severity of the incident, obviously. If you have a student who is being disrespectful and has said shut up a few times, and we write that up and turn it in, most likely the school, they're going to have a conversation with the kid and say, hey, don't do that anymore. But if you have a situation on your bus where a student is vaping, or there's a fight that breaks out, or there's obvious cases of bullying, or any severe incident, the school is going to take immediate and swift reaction or action with that incident, and they will almost always let us know what happens. So we turn it over to the school. The school will then deal with the issue, and the school will then, in most cases, get back with your supervisor and let them know what action was taken against the student. But that's not always the case. If you turn in a write-up and your supervisor turns it into the school and you're curious about what happened, you can ask your supervisor. Ask them for details of the result of your write-up. They can reach out to the school, they can try to get some information, and then they can pass that along to you. But that's the process. You write the driver does the write-up, the driver turns it in to the supervisor, the driver turns the write-up in, or the supervisor, turns the write-up into the school. The school handles the situation, and they should then pass back information to us regarding the discipline that took place. And I, as a supervisor, have no problem sharing that with my drivers and letting them know the outcome. I'll gladly do that. So that's student write-ups. Next, we have low-hanging limbs and branches. The question was asked, who do we report that to? How do we get them taken care of? What's that look like? You'll want to report that to your assistant supervisor for what used to be the Northwest Learning Community. That's Carlisle Adams. What used to be the Northeast Learning Community, which I think this is all of you guys. That is Eric White. You can report any low-hanging limbs and branches to them. They will reach out to the local municipalities and get that taken care of. That can be a difficult thing. I know when I was an assistant supervisor, getting responses from them could be difficult. And so if you don't see a change, keep getting back with your assistant supervisors, letting them know what's going on. And they'll keep hounding those folks and try to get those branches or limbs taken care of. We definitely don't want our beautiful buses being scratched up by those. If you send an email to your assistant supervisors with limbs or branches, which you should do, please make sure to include very detailed information of where the limbs are. If you can, jump on Google Maps and take a screenshot of where the issue is. You can do that with your phones. You can do that on a computer. Take a quick picture of that and include that in the email. That will help the assistant supervisor in getting that taken care of in a prompt manner. Next, we move to student identification and contact tracing. The question was asked if we could have students log in on the tablets or have some sort of identification process other than what we've got. Short answer is no. I could go into the reasons why, but we can't do that because, number one, it would take forever. Number two, quite frankly, it just really wouldn't make much sense. We're doing the things we're doing with assigned seating and asking students to say their names into the camera for contact tracing. And I believe that will take care of the issue if any issues were to arise. It's already happened twice. I know in my org where they've had to view the video, go to seating charts, and things have worked out fine. So we're doing that work. Driver's hours. The question was asked whether drivers are limited on hours and what that limit was. Yes, 40 hours is the maximum hours that a driver should be getting in any week. 40 hours is the maximum number of hours that any driver should be getting in a week. Anything over 40 turns into overtime hours, and we really want to try to avoid that, not even really as much as possible, but altogether. We want to avoid overtime. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, but I need to make my money. I want to work more hours. I need to work more hours. And I understand that. We all do. But especially with the budget being as tight as it is this year, with all of the things that have transpired over the last few months, we're in a crunch for hours. So drivers are not to exceed 40 hours in a week. Please make sure that if you do extra work like field trips, CBIs, tags, sweep runs, shop work, whatever that may be, if you do any extra work outside of your regular route time, that you're checking with your supervisor on a very regular basis to make sure that your hours are accurate, or make sure that your hours are under 40. I know I tell my drivers, please, if you have questions, ask me. I have no problem answering those questions on hours because I don't want to get nailed at the end of the week with like 5 or 6 people in overtime. That's not fun. That's not what we're looking for. So please be checking your hours. You are responsible for your own hours as a driver. However, your supervisor is here to assist you in making sure that you stay at an appropriate level. Finally, Safe Schools videos. The question was asked, why can we not view Safe Schools videos on the weekends? And the simple answer to that is we have not been working on Wednesdays, and so we had to find something for drivers to do so that we could get y'all paid. Quite frankly, that's what we wanted to do was make sure y'all were paid for all 5 days of the week. And in order to do that, we had to find a good solution, and that solution was Safe Schools videos. So we asked that those be done on the day that you're being paid to do them, because you have all day to get those done. You're not driving the bus. You're not. Some of you may have been doing nutrition, but you had until Thursday if that was the case. So we wanted those videos done on Wednesday so that we could enter that time on Wednesday and have everything look good for our time cards. So that answers those questions. Those were 5 questions that came out of the questionnaire that was sent out that we felt were important to answer here in the meeting. If you had questions that you had asked in that questionnaire that were not answered here, again, that link will be sent back out to you guys, not for you to respond, but for you to pull up the document and answer or see the answer to any of the questions that you may have asked. They have all been answered. And with that concludes my presentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen here for just a minute. And then I'm going to come to y'all. Okay, does anybody have any questions that you would like to ask? Feel free to raise your hand and I will call on you and you can unmute yourself and ask what you got. Christine, go ahead.
Hi, Ethan. Yeah, how long, like, after a child is tested positive for COVID, does the school system get in touch with the bus driver about that child being tested positive? About how long does that take?
I'm going to speak simply from my own experience with this. I know that, like I said, I've had 2 cases in my own org where a child has tested positive, and those drivers have been contacted as late as 9 o'clock in the evening. So the way I'm understanding it, as soon as the school receives word of a positive test or a positive exposure to, they're not wasting, they are immediately contacting Ms. Cross, and Ms. Cross is immediately contacting the driver who may have been exposed to COVID. So it's an immediate thing from my understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Cynthia.
Yes, good morning. I have a question about, okay, so if the child test is positive and we've been in contact with that child on the bus, are they quarantining every student that was on the bus, including the driver, until they get a negative COVID test, or what's being done about that?
I'll start this answer by saying that one of my favorite responses to any question is, I don't know. So I'm not going to sit here and try to babble my way through this one like I do know. I don't know the answer to that question. I will simply say that in the cases I've had, the driver was allowed to return to work the next shift. So I believe every case is probably different depending on the severity of the situation, but I cannot specifically give you a definite answer on that. Is that fair? You okay with that?
Hey, yes, Ethan? I am. But the second question is, so what if one of our family members have been exposed to COVID and they come back with should we let you guys know this, or what?
Yeah, read up on your return to work handbook where it talks about COVID related reporting. There's some specifics in there that I don't want to misspeak on right now. I don't want to say even one small thing incorrect about COVID because it's just such a serious thing. Check in your return to work handbook. Pedro may have a better answer for that.
Don't know what else I can do.
Ethan.
Okay, thank you.
Just want to chime in a little bit here. When it comes to COVID, if you have someone who is infected with COVID, your family member, yourself, you're going to go through health services, the health services department. I hope I'm calling it correctly. What you will do, you would log the fact that you were either been diagnosed or you had contact with someone who had COVID. And then they will communicate back and forth with you until they deem it safe enough for you to return to work. Okay. So again, just to recap, as long as you have that diagnosis or you have someone who's been diagnosed positive or suspected of having COVID, they pretty much take over and determine all the little peculiarities as with regards to when you come back and that type of stuff. And I hope that has kind of answered the question for you. Everyone had a question?
Yes, I have a question. With the numbering of the seats, I'm just like wondering, should the number 1 be placed at seat number 1? In other words, are students allowed to be sitting in seat number 1 or from seat number 2?
Based on the chart, Ethan, I hope I'm not getting ahead of myself. Based on the chart, number 1, they consider number 1. However, not number 1 behind the driver. If memory serves me correct, I stand corrected on that one. But if you start to the front 1, 2, 3, 4, go all the way back, you should have 12, or is it? I think it's 12 or 13. Okay, so if you start at number 1, go all the way back and name each seat. However, because you have a number on that seat, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to put someone in that seat. You could just have the number of the seat and then leave it blank, So it's just to pretty much keep track of who's there and we have a system that is uniform across the board, so that when we say seat number 1 or seat number 5, driver's side or passenger side or door side, there's no confusion as to with regards to where exactly the child is seated.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Pedro.
Joanne,
Anybody have any other questions?
Yes, I have a question, Ethan. Getting back to what Cynthia stated, if that was the case, the exposure, if we should have to, they tell us that we can't be working, are we going to get paid, or do you have to have that disability leave of absence or whatever?
There is a code for COVID pay, COVID leave that we're using this year. So there are things in place to make that happen, to allow you to be paid for that time off.
Okay, I just want to know. Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Is there any... All right, go ahead. Ethan, is there any protocol to how we should mark the bus seats? I know we have the layout on the piece of paper, but would you provide any type of magnets or any type of something we can put up above the seats so we could write the name with a Sharpie or something?
We're asking you not to put the names on the seats, mainly because, again, we're not concerned necessarily with the names being above the seats, because you're going to have the names on the chart. As we mentioned earlier, you're going to be using a dry erase marker. Please don't use a Sharpie. Use something that can be erased. Use a dry erase marker to write the number above the seat, and the number above the seat will correlate with the number on your seating chart. And your seating chart is what's going to provide what students' names or what students are sitting in that seat. We want to make this as simple as possible for you guys. We also want to make it simple for the kids, so you can just simply tell them, sit in seat 5, rather than having to go and show them where those seats are. So please don't use Sharpies.
Gotcha. Thank you for the clarity.
So Ethan, on that note, so we're not putting the numbers up on top on the side of the bus. You want the numbers in the seats?
No, I'm sorry. Yes, we do want them up on the sides of the bus, on the metal above the windows. That's where we'd like you to write the numbers with a dry erase marker. I'm going to keep saying that so we don't have Sharpie all over the buses.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a
let's
question,
see.
please.
Tanya, go ahead.
Yes, I just want to know why Fulton County don't have a clearance height posted on their buses.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I'll pass that along. I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yo, go ahead, Jim.
Tanya, that's a brilliant question, because I couldn't tell you what the clearance is on a bus, and if I got on a bus right now and approached something, I wouldn't know. So you'll be seeing those on the buses very soon. I can almost promise you.
Okay.
And thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
I thought Jim was about to embarrass me by telling us what the clearance was, because I don't know either. I'm glad you didn't know, Jim. That makes me feel better. Joel Britton, you have a question?
Yeah, when you were talking about the kids saying their name into the camera when they get on the bus, could you repeat how they come on the bus and say their name without breathing on us? I kind of didn't get that.
They will not remove their mask. They'll come on the bus with their mask on, just like this, turn to the camera and say, "My name is Ethan Martin," as loudly as they can, so that the camera can hear it. The camera can get a good look at their, eyeballs is all they're going to see. Have them keep their mask on and say it as loudly as they can without yelling.
But they're kind of close to us when they're doing that, so we just stay in the seat. There's nowhere else we can go. We just stay there, right?
Yeah, you want to be in the driver's seat when the kids are loading, obviously. But if you want to, shift over just a little bit, if you want to maybe stand in that first seat behind the driver's seat so that they're not, yelling right in your face,
Right.
that could potentially work as well. But you want to be in that driver's compartment, preferably in the driver's seat, so you don't have students coming up and messing with your parking brake and all of that. So
Right. Okay.
if you don't have a face shield yet, I would go ahead and request one of those from your supervisors. That way, that will give you an extra layer of protection.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's see here. I think I saw Mr. Bob Rourke. Your hand went up. What you got?
Yes, when they're coming up to announce themselves with their mask on, do they look at the camera in the middle of the front windshield or the one above over our heads?
You'll want them to look at the one above your head. The one in the windshield only looks out towards the road. It's a front-facing camera. So you'll want them to look up at the one above your head.
Thank you.
Ruben, I saw your hand go up next.
Okay, first one is a comment on the Bluebirds. The height is 11.2. My question is, in terms of the market that you mentioned, who do we get that from? Do we get that from the shop, Ms. Z, or where do we get that?
Talk to your supervisor.
10-4.
Right, Ethan, just chime in a little bit. With regards to saying your names, I've noticed based on watching videos, okay, so based on watching videos, you need to be a little further back in order for the front camera to pick up that particular child. So anywhere around the first row of seats, if they turned around and say their name in the camera, will probably be ideal in order to capture their face properly. So when they're doing that, they don't necessarily need to be right there up there by the driver when they say their names. Just a little piece of information for you guys.
Yeah, it's going to look different on every bus because, again, the camera positioning is just different. The internationals to the Bluebird, they're different. So start looking at your bus now and trying to figure out what's going to be the best way to make that happen. But definitely do it towards the front so that you can control that environment and make sure it happens. Clay Springfield, I saw your hand go up next. Clay, did you have a question?
Can you hear me now? Yeah. My question is about protocol on field trips. My experience is the coaches aren't very sympathetic with us when we request masks on and things of that nature. Is there anything we need to be aware of as far as field trip protocol and how to handle it?
Yeah, it doesn't change from a regular route. Jim mentioned it earlier. I think I heard him. If you're having an issue with teams not using not wearing their mask on the bus, let your supervisor know. And we will contact the school. And I think Jim even went so far as to say that they would possibly not be receiving field trip transportation any longer. So be stern, be firm. If they won't comply, let your supervisor know. Jim, you got something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm going to email Vicky, who talks to Dr. Kraft, who's over all athletics and all between those two, we'll get that resolved. When we first started doing trips, that was we weren't mandatory buses for students on buses at that point, but we were mandatory for athletes and coaches on field trips. So any of you guys that drive field trips, I would remind them once, and you might even remind it, hey, I just want you to be aware, there is a Fulton County policy that requires you to wear a mask on a field trip. And this field trip is being recorded, and we will share the video with Dr. Kraft. Don't want to beat people up. Remind them once. If they don't follow the procedure, let your supervisor know. We'll get it taken care of. I promise you.
Okay, does that satisfy your question, Clay? You good?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Let's see, Joan Stewart, you had your hand up. Joan, if you're trying to speak, could you please unmute yourself?
Yes, sorry about that. Are we to do this morning and afternoon, the children speak into the camera? Because we do have different kids, morning and evening.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. You do it in the morning and in the afternoon. Both
Okay,
times.
thank you.
I see a lot of hands up who have already asked questions. So if you've asked your question and you have received a satisfactory answer, please lower your hand. Are there any other new questions that anybody would like to bring up?
Yes, this is Phil Benson. My question is regarding the say your names. Will the school administrators or teachers communicate this to students so it wouldn't be a complete surprise when we ask them to do it? I think that would help.
I had that question asked to me by a school, actually. They asked if we were going to communicate that with the parents, and I've passed that question on up. I don't know yet if any communication is going to go to parents, so I can't definitively answer that. Jim may have more of an answer on that than I do, but I don't know for sure right now what the school is going to communicate to parents.
Ethan, I'm sorry, I was doing something else. What was the question again?
We're asking if the parents are going to be notified about students having to state their name into the camera, so it's not a surprise to
them. That would be a really good thing. I know that schools are aware of it, and they know why we're doing it, but I don't know if they have sent anything to the parents, but I will inquire.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
Hi, Ethan. This is Tequila.
Hey, Tequila, go ahead.
The thing with the dry erase markers, if they stay up on the wall long enough, they do stain. What I normally do is you can go to Walmart and buy the mailbox numbers, the little stickers. And the sheets are probably about $2, and they have 1 through 9 on the sheets. And you can buy those and just kind of put those stickers up over the seats, and those are removable.
Yeah, they're trying to avoid any adhesives. They don't want anything sticky on the bus, any long-lasting residue. I think, if you've got magnets, that might work fine because that is not adhesive, and it won't stain like the dry erase does. That's a good point. It does definitely leave a stain, but they do not want any adhesives on the bus this year.
Okay, thank you.
Great thought, though. Thank you, Tequila. Let's see, Melanie Ridley, do you have a question?
Yes, good morning. I want to know, did I miss it? When is it supposed to start?
When is what supposed to start?
The names being recorded on the video.
You can go ahead and start that tomorrow morning. That's immediate. Go ahead and start that immediately.
Thank you for that.
All right, Ruben, did you put your hand back up with a question?
Yeah, in reference to this going over 40 hours. If we're getting, like we're doing field trips and we're getting over 40 hours, why is it you guys are stressing us out, telling us it's our responsibility to make sure that we don't go over 40?
Well, I would answer that by saying in just generally, if a driver works 35 hours a week, regular route time, and they're offered a field trip, it was an 8-hour field trip, that's a guarantee that you're going to be at 43 hours at the end of the week. Is probably not a good idea for that field trip driver to take that field trip. That's what it means by being responsible with your own hours. You have to know what you're working in a week on average and know what you can reasonably do as a field trip driver. Now, there are times when you're given a field trip that's only supposed to be 2 or 3 hours and it goes for 12. There's nothing you can do about that. That's not to stress you out in that sense, but we want to control what we can control. And that's That's what it means to be responsible with your hours. Pedro, you popped up. You got something on that?
Yeah, Ethan, Ruben, here we have situations sometimes where we have emergencies. Helen may call you. We have a field trip going on. We don't have anyone else to cover. And what you are to do is say, hey, Helen, whoever they are, I'm going to go over 40 hours if I take this field trip. I want to make you aware of that, blase, blase. And if that person tells you go ahead and do it because you're the only person we have available, then it pretty much takes the responsibility off of you and put it on their shoulders because they approved it. So the reality is that you need to keep track of your hours so that if you will go over and someone offers you a job to do, you can tell them yes or no. Well, not yes or no, but you can warn them that it will affect your time, and you will go over, and therefore you are not pretty much responsible for that. Okay. And I hope that has kind of answered the question.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
Hey, can you touch on the policy regarding seat belts again, and does that apply for high school and middle school students as well?
If a bus is equipped with seat belts, it is Fulton County policy that all students, elementary, middle, high school, must wear the seat belt. Failure to wear the seat belt could result in disciplinary action. But if a student refuses to wear one, please notify your supervisor and they will turn that over to the school.
Okay, so then even with the high school students, every day we just announce to put on the seat belts, correct?
The procedure's always been to, when the students get on the bus in the morning, remind them.
Yeah, we asked all these dumb questions. I'm sorry?
Do what?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
The procedure's always been when they get on in the morning, remind them to put their seatbelts on as each student gets on. Before you leave your schools in the afternoon, you're to walk to the back of the bus and then walk back to the front, reminding each student to put their seatbelt on, kind of like a flight attendant might do on an airplane.
Okay, so don't do it through the intercom system?
It's better to walk the bus, especially in the afternoon. That way you can see physically with your own eyes who has and who has not put it on. You can announce it over the intercom, especially in the morning, just as a reminder. You want to make sure that you're seen on camera, reminding those students to put their seatbelt on, just in case something were to happen. Again, you've covered yourself by reminding your students to put their seatbelt on, just like the mask, just like stating their names. Be seen doing your job if there ever were to be an issue that were to arise.
Okay, so, and if I do that intercom system and I'm very clear about it, would that be acceptable, or do I have to physically get up and walk the bus?
The procedure is to walk to the back of the bus before you leave the school in the afternoon.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Onwuka, hope I'm saying that correctly.
That was me. You answered it. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, still see a bunch of old hands up. Does anybody have any? Pedro, go ahead.
No, Steve had a question. He's a little further down, so you can't see his hand up. Steve? Okay, you are trying to speak, just unmute your
Okay, no question.
No question?
Correct.
Well, go ahead and take your hand down, okay? Jalandra, you had a question?
Yes. Good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Ethan or whoever. Okay, so you know you'll get those 1 or 2 students who don't want to state their name, but if you know their name, is that acceptable if you just say, good morning, such and such? Is that acceptable, or do they have to say it?
They need to be saying it. The policy is that they need to say it. If you know who they are and you want to turn around to the camera and say, That's Johnny. Johnny didn't say his name. At least we'll know who it was. I mean, that's fine, but let your supervisor know that you have a student who is refusing to state their name.
Okay, thank you.
Ethan, this is Chris again. Next week, when we go back to school on the 14th, is that going to be, that's going to be full phase 4, correct? Where it's 5 days a week for every single grade and whoever wants to go back to school instead of online, correct?
Yep, that's correct. It is the full phase 5, face-to-face. Everybody's going every single day. I would encourage y'all. I think Ms. Cross sent out an email that states kind of what the numbers are looking like percentage-wise for students who are coming back face-to-face, as opposed to those who are still choosing universal remote learning. I'd encourage y'all to check that email out and just kind of get an idea of what that's looking like. We're not going to have full attendance, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. The percentages are lower than they would be in a normal year for students who are coming back full face-to-face.
Okay, and one more question. When we do our seating charts, we're supposed to do 2 per school, one for the AM and one for the PM, because aren't we supposed to load the students, like first stop goes all the way to the back, and then in the afternoon you reverse that, where you have them seated where they get off first?
That was certainly the original model that was presented to me. Jim, are you still there? Pedro, anybody have anything different on that?
I would say, okay, so 2 things we have to do. Number one, we have to use, we have to kind of analyze the situation and use our best, make a best decision. Now, it may not always be practical to load exactly how we initially planned. Now, in my opinion, it's probably best to have the same kid in the same spot every single time. That way it's easy to trace, do contact tracing and all that good stuff, all right? The next thing is that your routes don't always run back a reverse order every single time. Sometimes the same way you pick them up, you drop them off. So it's not always practical. So what I will say is try to keep it as simple as possible, and wherever possible, assign the same child in the same seat, AM and PM. That will make life easier. If you cannot do that, then we have access to print off more seating charts for you. Just make sure that you keep up with them and you label them accordingly so that you know exactly which seating charts applies to which. So that if we have to do contact tracing, it is relatively easy and simple. Did I answer you? Did that cover it, Ms. Steele?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, no problem.
Cool, thank you, Pedro.
Yes, Ethan, this is Jordan. I have a question about what Christine just said there. What about those that's filling in for someone else's route? How are you supposed to keep up with where that student was setting? You're just filling in for this, for the bus, the other driver.
Yeah, I guess there should be a seating chart on the bus at all times, a current seating chart. So, you get on the bus, and I guess we need to consider that and discuss that of where that needs to be universally, so that we all know where to find those. That's a good question. It's something that I think we probably need to discuss amongst the supervisors and coordinators and whatnot. Pedro, you got something else on that?
Yeah, I would say that's true. That's a really good question. It's something that we did not think about. However, let's say that we have a situation that pops up tomorrow, then probably the best thing for us to do is just to make the best decision. If the person covering can get those names, then we can put them on the seating chart. However, they should already know where to sit based on how they've been writing all along. and then saying their names into the camera, that all also cements the reason why we should do it. So if they say their name in the camera and go sit in seat 7, then if we have to do some contact tracing, we can always pull that camera, pull the hard drive, look at the hard drive, and we know exactly where that child is seated.
Question.
All right, Steve Sigmund, do you have a question? All right, Rita Rhymes, I saw your hand pop up.
So at this point, we will now be utilizing all the seats, whereas in the beginning, we were doing every other seat. So as of next week, when everybody comes back face to face, or whomever comes, we are using every seat. Is that correct?
I would say it would depend on each individual route. If a route can be spaced out where you're not using every seat because you have a low number of riders, then by all means, please space them out as much as possible. But if you've got more than 12 kids on your bus, then you can't put them in separated seats. So each bus is going to be different. If you have a full bus, then most likely you're going to have students sitting beside one another.
Okay, now I understand that. But in lieu to what Pedro Haynes just said, try to get them in the exact same seat. You may have students that come in the morning that don't come in the evening, or vice versa. So that's why I asked that question. Are they looking for that when they pull these cameras and they see that the same student is not in the same assigned seat, and we are not doing every other seat? Is that something they're looking for as well?
What they're looking for specifically is that your seating chart matches up with where those students are sitting on the bus. If it's AM or PM, it does not matter. As long as your seating chart matches what they're seeing on that camera. They need to be able to verify that Johnny was in seat number 5 based on your seating chart and by what they see on your video. And I hope that answers what you're asking. I may be misunderstanding.
No.
And sometimes it's not always the case. Sometimes it's not always the case that.
And also, we are permitted to put 3 elementary into a seat and 2 middle into the same seat if need be.
If need be, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
With the initial seating chart, we're pretty much coming up with those how we see fit, right?
Could you repeat that, please?
With the initial seating chart, we're pretty much coming up with that how we see fit.
Yeah, that's correct. Whatever makes most sense for your bus. Yes.
Okay.
All right, Steve Sigmund, I see your hand pop up.
Okay, are the parents going to be able to change their mind before the end of this semester and say they want their child to go to school?
I believe they set the cutoff date at September 18th for them to choose what they wanted to do, but I can't speak on behalf of the schools and what they will or will not allow. I don't know.
Okay, well, let's say we have 60% attendance. So we know the 40% that is not going to go to school. Why don't we just take those 60% of the kids and make a chart for them?
I mean, after a week or two, you'll know who's on your bus for, a regular day or regular week. And so your chart's going to be based off who's riding. If you have new students show up, you'll just add them to your seating chart and make sure you turn your updated list into your supervisor. But we can't like knock students out of our routing system who have chose not to go to school. They're still going to be in there, so we can't like knock them off the route sheet, so to speak.
No, but I'm just thinking in terms of the spacing issue. If we have, if we have 20 kids that are going on the bus regularly, we could space them out and everybody would still be happy and we'd know where they are.
Something we'll look into. It'll be an ever evolving thing.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, guys, it is 10:17. Y'all got about 13 minutes until your next session, so I'm going to have to end it here. I'm sure you have more questions, and that's fine. Please seek out your supervisor and bombard them with all of your questions. They'd love nothing more than to answer those for the rest of the day. I love questions. I think they're fun. Everybody learns from them because some people, like myself, are typically afraid to ask questions. So thank you all for asking. Thank you all for listening. And thank you for being interested in the safety and well-being of your students. I've had a great time with y'all. I'm going to turn it back over to Brian. Brian, it's all yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Ethan.
Ethan.
Thank you, Ethan. Good job.
Hello, everybody. All right, would you all sit tight for a moment while we prepare the next presentation? Good morning, this is Jamal. I just want to touch base on the IT presentation coming up next. If you got my email last week asking you to submit a survey on those 4 areas, the IT section, what we try to do with this video, it's about 30 minutes, what we try to do is address some of the questions that come up a lot. So what we're going to do is show the video first and then open it to questions after the video, and then we'll adjourn after that and you'll be done. Thanks. One of the most important things you can do to help yourself is to register for the password reset tool. To do that, you go to fultonschools.org. Once the page loads, you scroll all the way to the very bottom of the page, and you have a link here that says reset password. If this is your first time on this site, you can download the instructions to reset your password, or you can just go ahead and register. You click on register and it's going to ask a series of questions, including a security question. It'll ask you for an alternate email address and your cell phone number. And you do that because once you do, it'll give you the option to reset your password online without having to call the help desk or get one of us to help. So you would just sign into your account here with your full email address. If you ever get a question about stay signed in, if it's your personal computer, go ahead and do that. If you're on a shared computer, I would always say no. So because I've already registered for this and I'm trying to log in again, it's going to ask me to enter a code that was just texted to my phone. In this case, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to close this page. But if you were doing this for the first time, you would have to register your information and then it would send you the code. So in this case, in case I ever get locked out or I just forget my password, I click here to unlock it. It's going to ask you to enter your full email address, your full email address. And this CAPTCHA information here is just for security purposes. And when I enter that, I get an option of I forgot my password or I know my password but still can't sign in. So you choose this one in case your password gets locked or your account gets locked. In this case, I'm going to say I forgot my password. In the next screen, it's going to ask me how I want that information sent to me. If I registered with an email address that's not the Fulton email, I can have it emailed to me, or I can have it texted to me, or I can have a call or answer my security questions. So if I just put my cell phone number in here and I text and click text, I'm going to get a text with a code, and that'll allow me to either unlock my account or reset my password, whichever applies. So this is one of the best things you can do, because if you ever get locked out and cannot get in and don't want to wait for the help desk or can't get a hold of anyone at the help desk or one of us, this will allow you to do this by yourself online. One question that we get asked a lot is to how to access Employee Express to see your pay stub or enter a leave while you're off Fulton County property. And what you have to do for that is you have to sign up for what they call the MFA, multi-factor authentication. That will send a text alert to your phone with a code that you enter. So in order to do that, it's a little bit different. What you have to do is go to myprofile.microsoft.com. The first time you do this, to set up your MFA, to get the code to your phone, it's best to do this while you're on Fulton County property. So if you connect to Fulton County Wi-Fi and do this while you're on Fulton County property, or use a Fulton County computer, it'll make this a lot smoother. So in this case, I've already registered for the MFA, so I get right into the page. If you have not done this before, it's going to ask you a set of security questions. So you have to set up your security questions first and enter your cell phone number. Once you have this established, you'll be able to access the Employee Express or any of those restricted pages while you're off Fulton County property. It's just a matter of going to myprofile.microsoft.com, entering your security information, which includes your cell phone number and some security questions. Just do that one time and you're all set.
Hello, my name is William Foster. I'm part of the technical support team for transportation services. In this period of instruction, I'd like to take a minute and show you a new tool we have access to inside the employee portal. This tool is called Fiori. In order to access Fiori, you first go to the Fulton Schools main webpage, www.fultonschools.org. Once at the main webpage, you'll probably have to scroll down just a little bit till you see the employee portal. Click the employee portal link, and now you'll be inside the employee portal, where you can scroll down to the bottom set of buttons, the blue buttons, the My App buttons, and one of the apps underneath there is called Fiori. Click on the Fiori link. Now that you're inside the Fiori window, you'll quickly have access to view your pay stubs, to manage your leave requests, and even to view your benefit plan. Fiori, you find it inside the employee portal off the main Fulton County Schools website.
Fulton County Transportation uses Safe Schools for all their online courses. In order to get to Safe Schools, go to fultonschools.org homepage. Scroll down a little bit and you'll see a link for Employee Portal. and ClassLink. You can go directly to ClassLink, but if you have trouble, try logging into Employee Portal first and then ClassLink. So here I'm going to go to ClassLink first. For your login, you use your Fulton County username only and your Fulton County password. Once your ClassLink page comes up, you'll see a link that says Save Schools. You click on Save Schools. If you get this message where it says continue to website, check again, or install extension, if you're on your home computer or any other type of device, you can click on install extension. And the next time you log in, your login for ClassLink and Save Schools will be connected and synced, and you won't have to type in a password again. If you don't want to do that, if you're not sure, you can always click on continue to website. The only difference will be here when you go to the Save Schools page, put in your login one more time, which is again your username only, as well as your Fulton County password. Once your Save Schools page comes up, this will be your home page. All the courses you have assigned to you will be in this dashboard. If you don't see courses here, you can always do a search for them by clicking on View Library and do additional courses. If you ever have trouble with ClassLink or Save Schools, or getting to Save Schools to see your courses, we have it posted on here on our transportation page. If you click on Employee Portal and log into our Bus Driver Corner page, here you use your Fulton County username again, Fulton County password. Click on the link for Operations, Transportation, and Bus Driver Corner. And over here on the right, you'll see a link that says how to access Save Schools. So this gives the steps to access Save Schools and also to access your courses if you do not see them on your dashboard. The other thing that this provides is information if you want to do it from your phone and using the ClassLink app. There are a couple of steps you have to do. So the first thing you'll see here is you'll see the option to download the ClassLink app. The first time you launch the ClassLink app, this is what it looks like. Nothing will be populated. It's going to ask for a username and password, but don't type it in just yet. What you have to do is search for your school. And it's not a school that you're searching for, it's a school district. So from the first time you launch your ClassLink app, type in Fulton. You'll populate Fulton County Schools. You select that. From there, you use your username and password. If you choose this option from your phone or a tablet, the next time you log in, this will automatically be populated, and all you have to do is username and password. You can also select the option to remember me. It'll remember your username, but you'll still have to type in your password to log in. Once you sign in, you'll see all of your courses the same way you would on a regular computer login.
To set up your Office 365 email on your phone and stay productive on the go, use the Outlook mobile app. Let's first set it up on an iPhone, then an Android. Go to the App Store and search for Outlook. Install the app. When it's finished, choose Open. Then get started. Choose whether to get notifications, then Allow. Enter your Office 365 email address, then Add Account. Enter your password, then sign in. We won't add any more accounts, so choose Maybe Later. Learn how it works, then finish. You can work with your email, calendar, and contacts from anywhere using the Outlook mobile app. Setting up an Android is very similar. Go to the Play Store, search for Outlook, then install. Choose Open, then Get Started, and type your Office 365 email, password, and sign in. Skip adding more accounts, learn how it works, and finish. We see our email, calendar, and contacts in the Outlook mobile app. You can add more Office apps like Word, Excel, and PowerPoint to your phone so you can work on documents as well as email on the go.
In this video, we'll run through the Microsoft Teams app.
First, you'll need to download the Microsoft Teams app from either the App Store if you have an iPhone or Google Play if you have an Android device. When you've done that, it will ask you to sign in. Use your Office 365 credentials to log in. A few pop-ups may appear, asking for you to allow access to use your camera and your microphone. Press Allow. If this is the first time you're using the Teams app, it will walk you through a few features. Just select Next each time, then Got it. You will then be able to access your Teams account. In this video, we're going to run through the interface of the Teams app and how you can use it. It's worth noting that I'm doing this tutorial on an iPhone XR. The placement and spacing may be slightly different on other devices. First things first, if you click the burger icon in the top left-hand side of your screen, you'll see your profile appear. This is where you can see your status, set a status message, and other settings. These items are all editable. If you click status, you can manually change your status, but remember, it will automatically change when you're in a meeting or when you leave the app. You can also change the notification settings. To do so, click Notifications. You may need to open settings to change these settings within your mobile phone. Click Notifications, then toggle Allow Notifications. Back to the burger icon. You have a settings option where you can change to dark theme too. Another super useful item is What's New. It's a rundown from Microsoft of all the things that's new in Teams. Coming out of the burger settings now, you'll notice there are a few icons along the bottom of your screen. Activity is literally your recent activity. It will show you what's been happening recently in your Teams. If you want to read more of one of the things shown, simply click it and it will take you there. Whilst we're here, you'll notice that the icons at the bottom of the page have changed. Just like in the desktop version of Teams, you have the option to reply, add a photo, attach a file, @mention someone, you can format the text, and the 3 dots have additional settings. You will also notice there's an audio icon. If you press and hold that down, you can even send a voice note to the thread. To do so, you must make sure that you have enabled Teams to use your microphone. Now to go back, select the back arrow on the top left-hand side. Going back to the icons at the bottom of the page. Next you have Chat. This will show you a list of all your recent chats. To enter one, simply click it. As before, you have the options at the bottom of your screen on how you can participate in communication. The difference here is the tabs at the top. If you communicate with this person often, you may have files and more. This is all the files that has been shared between the two of you. Any more tabs you have set up with the individual will show up in More. You also have 2 icons on the top right-hand side, which allows you to start an impromptu video call or audio call. Now back to Chat. At the top of the page, next to Recent, you have Contacts. This is where you can find your favorites. You also have the option top right to create a new chat. Enter the name of the person you wish to chat with. If you already have an existing chat with that person, it will appear in full. This is also where you can create a brand new chat with a new person. The icon in the center is Teams. This is a list of all of the teams that you're involved in. It is almost identical to the desktop version of Teams. You may have some teams hidden. So to add them in view, select See All Items and tick the ones you want to be visible. Alternatively, you can access this by clicking the Settings cog on the top right-hand side of your screen. The 3 dots next to the team name are the settings for that team. You're able to do things here like view members or leave team. You can use the drop-down arrow on each team title to view the channels within that team. Select the channel you wish to go into. You'll be able to access conversations, files, and all other tabs just as you would on your desktop. Once you're in a channel within a team, you can create a post by selecting New Post. You can either type a message you wish to post, record an audio clip, or attach a file. A small reminder, if you want to respond to something someone has already written, do not create a new post. Press reply on that thread. This makes sure that your response is attached to the right thread and the conversation is all in one place. The icon next to the settings cog allows you to create a team, browse a team, or join a team with a code. You can also search by selecting the magnifying glass in the top left-hand side. The great thing about this feature is that Teams will pull everything that it has to do with that one particular word and put them into categories to make your search easier. For example, if I type in CCAT, which stands for Cybercrime Awareness Training, it will show me all the messages that CCAT's been included in, people and files. Going back to the icons at the bottom of the screen, next you have Calendar. This will sync with your Outlook calendar and give you a rundown of all the meetings you have scheduled in for that day. The important thing to note here is this is how you join a video chat with your team. When it's time for you to join a chat, simply select Join. Then select Join Now. And the last icon at the bottom of your screen is Calls. This is where you can see a history of all of your calls and your voicemails. Teams is a great way to stay connected to your team members, and having access to it through your mobile phone means you can take it on the go with you and never be disconnected from your team.
One thing I want to cover that's really important is once you're logged into the tablet, if you ever have to leave that bus for some reason, if it doesn't crank or something like that, and you have to transfer to a different bus, there's a couple of ways you can do that, but the best way is to, just so you don't lose any of your time, you go to the time and attendance tab, you click the option that says transfer, the next screen you click new clock. What will happen then is the time will be held on that bus until you move to your new bus. You log into the new bus, your clock in on that new bus, on that sub bus, will then transfer over. So this transfer option, you will not lose any time by moving from one bus to another.
In order to power on your phone, you must hold down the red power button. After a while, it will vibrate and come on. If you are attempting to turn on your phone and all you're getting is the battery symbol, tap the power button to have the battery symbol appear, then hold down the power button. The phone will vibrate and turn on. If you're having problems with your PA radio, check and make sure that the noise suppression switch is off. Make sure that the PA is on the appropriate setting, which is auxiliary 1. Pressing the dial there will take you to auxiliary 1. And ensure that the internal external switch is set to internal. If you are receiving calls and unable to hear them, we want to make sure that this blue light is on. We check to make sure the junction box is on. And if that light isn't, make sure that the noise suppression switch has been turned off. If for some reason your microphone's not working, check and make sure that the auxiliary cord is plugged into the top of the phone.
If you want to add a favorites to your phone, you click the left arrow button to launch the contacts, arrow over to the star, and then scroll down to select the contact. Once you select it, it'll save it as a favorite in your favorites tab.
Your panic button should remain solid. It will blink in the case of an incident or event. If that's the case, bring it to your electronic technician's attention.
All Fulton County school buses have a bus camera system with a minimum of 3 cameras. As you can see here, this bus has 4 cameras visible. It actually has 5 cameras installed. This recording saved 4 camera views. You'll see 3 internal cameras plus a front-facing camera that shows everything that the driver sees. The bus camera system is required for a bus to be operational on the road. Once the bus cranks, the camera system starts recording and remains recording for 15 minutes after the bus shuts down. If you ever find that the bus camera system is not operational, check with your electronic technician so they can check out the system and make sure it's operational. All right, I know you have lots of questions, so go ahead. I think, Joan, you're first. How about Ms. Williams? Any questions? I've got Stuart, did you have a question?
Yeah, on the disco lights for the videos, I just want to make a comment, the new buses have the solid green, the old ones have flashing reds. You have to make sure the reds are flashing to be sure the camera's working.
Yeah, Brian created some updated videos. I'm going to add them to the Bus Driver Corner page. I just didn't get them in the video in time, but he has them recorded already for actually the 3 different types: Old Angel Tracks, New Angel Track System, and then the REI. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah, go ahead.
You have a question on the Microsoft Teams. When you get to the point, Microsoft, and you sign in, you said, do you use your Fulton County user ID?
Yeah, you'll need your Fulton County email address, a full email address.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? So just a reminder, we've got 2 electronic technicians at South, 2 at North, and also if you need additional support for anything else, you go to Bus Driver Corner. Myself, Tim, William, name and email address and phone numbers on there, so just feel free to reach out anytime you need it. And we'll stay on here for another couple minutes, but if there are no more questions, and we're done for the day and you're free to go.
You've been
Thank
wonderful.
you for your
Thank
time.
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see everybody. See you later. Bye.
Thank you. See you
Bye.
later. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Gets touchscreen.